تو داوود زمانه‌ای بزن که خوب میزنی، فریدون یگانه‌ای بزن که خوب میزنی، ای قمارباز حرفه‌ای بزن که خوب میزنی. فصل آخر است که آغاز میکنیم، جاوید شو با متحدان راه خود را باز میکنیم. جاوید شو شاه ما با متحدان شده همرکاب، سوی رهایی وطن پرواز میکنیم. تو داوود زمانه‌ای بزن که خوب میزنی، ای بیبی دوست داشتنی بزن که خوب میزنی، ای بنیامین شیر یهود بزن که خوب میزنی، نامت تا ابد با درود بزن که خوب میزنی، بزن که خوب میزنی، بزن که خوب میزنی. نمی ترسیم که مزدور ضحاک با سلاح می آید، بداند بالا سر او هم پهباد می آید. بزدل نمی آید به میدان تن به تن، چون گارد جاویدان زند سفت بردهن. تو شیر دل زمانه‌ای بزن که خوب میزنی، ای عقاب تیز پنجه‌ای بزن که خوب، دونان تراپ مردانه‌ای بزن که خوب میزنی، ای قمارباز حرفه‌ای بزن که خوب میزنی، بزن که خوب میزنی. خواهید دید به ایران باز شاهنشاه برگردد، خواهید دید به ایران باز رضا شاه برگردد، نظام جهل و تاریکی به قهر شاه برگردد. تو کوروش زمانه‌ای بزن که خوب میزنی، فریدون یگانه‌ای بزن که خوب میزنی، وحشت هر اجنبی بزن که خوب میزنی، رضا شاه پهلوی بزن که خوب میزنی، بزن که خوب میزنی. اگرچه داغ فرزندان ایران جگر سوز است، در صبح خشم ما نور بر تاریکی پیروز است. بگو با تازیان که استقامت میکند ایران، ببین روز فراخوان شاه چه قیامت میکند ایران. هر که بال یهود در افتاد، هر که بال یهود در افتاد، ارزشی زیر پل و سوراخ‌ها پنهان شده، سرداران و رهبرانش به درک واصل شده. آن ارعر تو خالیاش پر از ادعا شده. تو داوود زمانی فریدون یگانی میزنی ای قمارباز حرفه‌ای، بزن که خوب میزنی، بزن که خوب میزنی، بزن که خوب میزنی.
Guys, that song is a banger. That is a banger in Persian. I'm gonna have to like go over that on one of my future live streams, and I'm going to have to translate that for you, because what Barbo did with this song is he basically took like the Durka Haydar music and he switched the lyrics and the narrative, and basically he's like, President Trump, bizan ke khub mizani, which means hit them because you hit them well. So I will go over all of the lyrics for that. Yes, I'll give you the, well, I mean, I'll try the transliteration. I mean, it's going to take me a little bit of time, but yes. So I had to start with that. And guys, so I just want to say, for everyone who is just tuning in, Durud Patriots, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome to tonight's evening edition of The Goldie Show. And I started off with that song because that is an Iranian song dedicated to President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu, and basically thanking them for booming the Islamic regime and asking them to hit them even harder because you hit them well. Now, while we are waiting for President Trump to go live, someone requested the Boom Boom Epic Fury song. So, you know, why not? Why not? We have a few minutes more to spare before President Trump goes live for our live documentary watch party. So who is they? Who is they? So I mean, the song refers to President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu booming the Islamic regime, and the song is basically saying hit them, so the IRGC. So hit them because you hit them well, right? So bizan ke khub mizani. So, all right, let's go to the Epic Fury song. And then afterwards, we're going to go to President Trump and his live speech. But this comes at request from many of our American viewers. So absolutely, why not? One of my favorite songs. Let's go. Wait. Oh no, it didn't. It wasn't showing. Wait, let me go. All right, here you go. Here you go, guys. This is the Epic Fury song. Here you go.
Oh yeah! Are you ready? Let's go! Raptor fighter flying over the sea. F-35 is the drug for me. My heart, epic fury. Got the IRGC running scared. Laser guided missiles in the air. My heart, epic fury. Ooh, are you ready, Tehran? Ooh, are you ready now? No more deals, no more delay. It's time to blow the regime away. Epic fury, thunder and flash. Watch the walls of the regime crash. The sledgehammer swinging from the sky. Smash the regime and watch it die. Epic fury, fire and steel. This is the real art of the deal. Straight up Hormuz, open the gate. Mullahs crying, meeting their fate. My heart, epic fury. Basiji running from the American sound. Tomahawk missiles hitting the ground. My heart, epic fury. Ooh, are you ready, Tehran? Ooh, are you ready for the final round? Epic fury, thunder and flash. Watch the walls of the regime crash. The sledgehammer swinging from the sky. Smash the regime and watch it die. Epic fury, fire and steel. This is the real art of the deal. When we started this fight, all we needed were guns and a spark. 40 years of darkness, now we're lighting up the dark. Crown Prince Pahlavi's back in town. And we're burning the Islamic regime down. Epic fury, thunder and flash. Watch the walls of the regime crash. The sledgehammer swinging from the sky. Smash the regime and watch it die. Golden cross shining, crusader back to the fight. Hegseth is coming with the hammer of the right. Epic fury, God wills it. Raging change with the steel. This is the art of the deal. USA, Israel, Iranian people, side by side. My heart, epic fury. God bless the USA.
There you go. So, per your request, I was thrilled to share the Epic Fury song. So, guys, welcome again to tonight's evening edition of The Goldie Show, where we talk about all things geopolitics when it comes to the Middle East, occupied Iran, the Islamic regime, United States, Israel, and of course, as a former Canadian politician who was in politics for 10 years, an elected official for 7 years. I'm here to also give you my legitimate political analysis, because while many people give, political analysis or whatever, the vast majority of them weren't actually in politics, or they weren't politicians, right? But when you tune in to my channel, we're getting started.
Good evening. Before we begin, I'm proud to report that our country is safer, stronger, and far wealthier than it has ever been before. We are doing great. Less than 2 years ago, we inherited an economic and social disaster. After the worst inflation in 48 years, the wide open borders with millions and millions of people pouring in from all over the world, including criminals of all types, and 11,888 murders, many of whom killed more than one person. We had transgender for everybody, men and women sports, crime ravaging our cities, and the whole world was laughing at us as a nation, but not anymore. 2 years ago, our country was dead. Now we are the hottest country anywhere in the world. America is respected like we have never been respected before. We have more money being invested in the United States than at any time in the history of our country. More Americans are working today than ever before. This week, it was announced that inflation saw the largest monthly decline in more than 6 years. Just happened. It was just given out. The media reported it, and we accept it. The best in 6 years. The tax cuts in our great, big, beautiful bill are saving hardworking families thousands and thousands of dollars, like with the provisions, no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and no tax on Social Security for our great seniors, along with the interest deduction on a loan used to purchase a car, but only if that car is made in America, and a 100% expensing for our job-creating businesses. Our stock markets are at their highest point in many years, but we can actually say of all time. And your 401ks, pensions, and retirement accounts are setting records every single day, the highest in history. For years, we paid the highest price for prescription drugs anywhere in the world. Now we pay the lowest price under my most favored nation's policy, because I was able to get the rest of the world and the pharmaceutical companies to act responsibly. Drug prices are coming down by 70, 80, and 90%. TrumpRx.gov, this will ultimately reduce the cost of healthcare. You have to go to TrumpRx.gov and take advantage of it. But the cost of healthcare is coming way down because of what we've done with prescription drugs. And with Trump accounts, every child in America now has access to a tax-free investment account to save for their future. Billions and billions of dollars are being invested, put in by companies and individuals to take care of our children, so that at age 18, they will have potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars in their account, and they'll get off to a great start in life. So for that, go to TrumpAccounts.gov and sign up your child or any child who'd like to sign up. Our previously wide open borders have been transformed into the most secure borders in the history of our country, with 0 illegal aliens being admitted to the United States in the past 14 months. That is 0. Nobody thought it was possible. We had the worst border in the history of our country, and now we have the best. Crime is plummeting nationwide, with the murder rate at its lowest level since 1900, or more than 125 years ago. We're making a record investment in our armed forces, and we have the strongest and most powerful military by far anywhere in the world. I built it during my first term, and unfortunately, we're forced to use it now. We won in Venezuela, which is now working with us to produce millions and millions of barrels of oil. We are likewise winning big in Iran, and you will see the fruits of that labor very, very shortly. America is back and doing really well, but we still have a major challenge that must be urgently addressed, because no country can be great without fair and honest elections. You have to trust your country, because if there can be no trust, there can be no greatness. And that's very simple. No trust, no greatness. For many years, I've called for bold, swift, and decisive action to protect the integrity of America's elections. Every American deserves to know that when they cast their vote, that vote will be counted accurately in a system, and that is to make that system secure, one where cheating and interference are not just difficult, but virtually impossible. Unfortunately, the system we have today falls catastrophically short of that standard. Tonight, I'm announcing the immediate declassification and release of critical intelligence revealing shocking vulnerabilities in our election infrastructure. This evidence shows that the election system we have dangerously exposes, and really exposes like levels never thought possible, to hacking, exploitation, and foreign interference. Just as disturbingly, this vital information has for many years been covered up and hidden from you, the American people, our beautiful, our great American people. But that all changes right now. The documents we will release starting tonight have been gathered by the White House Government Transparency Task Force, a great group of people, along with the staff of the President's Intelligence Advisory Board, supported by our top intelligence agency chiefs, who have all personally reviewed the findings. We are presenting this evening and fully confirmed their authenticity. You can see these documents for yourself at whitehouse.gov. That's whitehouse.gov. Go check it out. Our purpose in disclosing this information is not to weaken confidence in election, but to earn that confidence by confronting vulnerabilities and correcting them very, very quickly. And that's what we're doing. The documents cover 5 major areas of concern. First, they show that over a period of years, starting during the 2020 election cycle, the People's Republic of China carried out what is believed to be the largest compromise of election data in history, resulting in China's illicit acquisition of 220 million U.S. voter files. That information includes names, addresses, phone numbers, political party preferences, and other sensitive data that would be needed to register to vote and engage in other nefarious activities, which is exactly what was happening. This data loss presents an unprecedented election security nightmare. The intelligence even shows that China assigned a data exploitation unit specifically to this new project. Compounding the travesty, the second set of documents we are releasing reveals that members of the deep state, very, very famous group of people, in many cases, in our intelligence agency work to actively suppress and downplay information about the extent of China's sinister election meddling, covering it up from both the president and the American people like nobody thought was possible. U.S. spy agencies began learning about the compromise of voter registration files in 2020 when they discovered that tens of millions of voter data, think of that, tens of millions of voters' data in 18 states have been bought, stolen, or hacked by China. Yet those responsible for sounding the alarm instead kept the information secret and hidden. They did not disclose to me as president or to anyone else, and to the best of our knowledge, they did not inform Congress. In fact, all they kept saying is, this is the most secure election in the history of our country, a standard, very pat line that was divvied out to say. The cover-up of this colossal security breach is even more disturbing in light of the additional information showing that China engaged in other election-related activities to undermine my first administration and our 2020 campaign. They did not want, and they just didn't want it. They fought like hell not to have it, Donald Trump, to win, and for good reason. As the documents we are releasing show, CIA reporting explicitly stated, and I quote, in mid-2018, the Chinese Communist Party's policy was to leverage all domestic and foreign elements that were opposed to the U.S. president in an effort to reduce the U.S. president's votes and make him resign or prevent his re-election. Isn't that nice? Also, in mid-2018, China was working to influence the results of the U.S. midterm elections and later the results of the 2020 presidential election itself. Separately, in mid-2019, the Chinese government's strategy against the United States was focused on undermining domestic confidence in the U.S. president. They wanted to just make you sound like your president wasn't so hot, when actually your president has done a great job, and they did everything possible to do exactly that. Going on, this document says, and this is by the CIA, the strategy included efforts to use Chinese contacts with big U.S. companies to influence U.S. business leaders to turn against the President of the United States of America. The Chinese government sought to identify U.S. journalists who had reported negatively on the U.S. president and pay them large sums of money to write more negative articles about him, as many as they could, and they didn't care what they said. The Chinese government wanted U.S. president to lose the next election, and the reason they wanted me to lose is because they knew I was wise to them, charged them billions and billions of dollars worth of tariffs, and built the strongest military anywhere in the world. We have the strongest military anywhere in the world. These are exact quotes from the CIA reporting. The name of the person doing the quote is now under review, but it gets even worse. Raw intelligence obtained by the FBI in 2020, yet buried by rogue bureaucrats, stated that China's activities even included an attempt to manufacture illegal ballots for Joe Biden. Documents show that during this period, dozens of significant CIA and NSA reports about China's election targeting were kept out of the presidential briefing. These were briefings I would get almost every day. Everything was kept out that was of importance. One email among intelligence analysts admitted that they had, quote, deliberately massaged the presidential daily briefing to withhold information regarding Chinese activities related to the election. Another official inside the FBI wrote that she was running, quote, a shadow government, unquote, to keep intelligence about China's election meddling from becoming known and to keep it away from the honorable press. Other officials who witnessed such efforts perceived the motivations to be blatantly political. Recently, we found significant numbers of burn bags in formation, and this is a group of bags that were used to destroy information given by President Barack Hussein Obama to be burned. It was supposed to be burned. These bags were supposed to be at a different level by different people, incinerated and checked, but it never happened. Maybe we got lucky. We believe this was not done on purpose, but rather through gross incompetence of the people that were supposed to burn the bags. But the findings are stunning. Today, I'm asking the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, the Department of Justice, the FBI, and the CIA to investigate how and why such crucial information was hidden, to fire those involved in the cover-up, and to file criminal charges, if appropriate, against these people. Yet concealing China's meddling was only the beginning. The third set of documents we are releasing proves that for many years, Americans were blatantly lied to about the security of our election infrastructure, including electronic voting machines and ballot counting systems, dishonest, almost all. They're vulnerable and they're easily compromised, and people within our government knew that. Tonight, we're publishing a series of previously classified U.S. intelligence community assessments and other reports proving that our government has long known these machines are extremely exposed to attack. As one assessment states, we judge that the United States adversaries, including at a minimum Russia, China, Iran, North Korea, as well as non-state groups, have the capability to compromise U.S. election infrastructure. That's unquote, but that's some statement, isn't it? Made by supposedly great patriots of our country. The document goes on to further state that, quote, we assess that centralized election-related data repositories, such as voter registration databases, poll books, and other official election websites, are most vulnerable to exploitation, and adversaries could use this access to these systems to disrupt election processes within the United States of America. Tonight, we're releasing all of those findings, and spanning from January 2020 to June 2026. This is a cyber threat aimed at the very heart of our democracy. Many people have questioned whether it could actually be possible to electronically manipulate vote totals or change election results on these terrible machines. Today, we are releasing documents that show the CIA obtained reporting of a specific plot to do a big number in favor of the corrupt Maduro regime in Venezuela. And that's exactly what happened, conspiring to digitally rig their own country's elections in 2020, and that's what they did. This reporting included precise details about methods to regime develop to digitally alter vote totals in ways that could not be detected even with an audit, no matter how deep they went. This intelligence underscores why we must take urgent action to ensure that our own system can never, ever be hacked or compromised like it was in the past. The fourth set of documents reveals that even when significant evidence of fraud has been detected, it has been buried and covered up. Among the disclosures tonight are FBI files detailing evidence of alleged fraud by a large-scale voter registration operation in Michigan. In 2020, Michigan State Police raided a Democrat Get Out the Vote organization, corrupt group in Muskegon. And we're so concerned by what they found. They were just so concerned. They couldn't believe it, actually, that they contacted the FBI in Detroit. The documents state that some canvassers admitted to FBI agents that they signed voter registration forms in other people's names, submitted fraudulent registration for people who did not exist, and received gift cards tied to their number of applications that they produced. In other words, it was pay, play, and cheat. The FBI agents working on the case believe that crimes were committed, yet the Biden Department of Justice slow-walked the investigation and killed it. Tonight, I'm asking the FBI director to ensure that the matter is fully investigated and to work with the Department of Justice to prosecute those responsible for any crimes. Finally, to reveal just how vulnerable our elections continue to be, we are releasing the results of a stunning investigation by the Department of Homeland Security. According to the DHS review, state voter rolls and public records, they identified approximately 278,000 non-citizens who are registered to vote in federal elections. Since Democrat states refuse to share their voter files, the real number is actually much higher than that. Yet, even this limited analysis found more than 250,000 foreigners illegally registered to vote. Put together, these disclosures reveal an election system so broken and so vulnerable that no one can possibly defend it. It is not defensible. Hundreds of millions of U.S. voter files are in the hands of foreign governments. Our machines and ballot counting systems are exposed to hacking and manipulation and corruption. China and other countries have been trying to meddle in our elections. Evidence of fraud has been buried. Hundreds of thousands of non-citizens and dead people are listed and active on the voter rolls. And yet we still have elections with no voter ID, no proof of citizenship, and tens of millions of ballots floating aimlessly through the mail. As one example of the insanity, California's recent election for mayor of LA and governor was held on June 2nd, a long time ago, but it was just completed a few days ago on July 10th. Think of that, much more than 1 month. Took a month to count the votes. I wonder what they were doing. This is worse than any third world country. There's no third world country that has elections like we have. In a rare move, NBC and ABC Fake News have both said that they would not cover this speech. They knew what it was about because of the fact that they don't like the topic, because they know how corrupt our system is and they don't want to reveal it. They and others in the media are part of a plot. They want to continue this fraud for whatever reason. They want to keep it going. They want to protect the radical left. They can't have a great country, and that's true. You can't have a great country without free and fair elections. Fraud like this should mean a revocation of their licenses. They use our public multi-billion-dollar in value airways for absolutely no money. They pay nothing. All we want is honesty in our elections and honesty in reporting. They pay nothing for multi-billion-dollar assets. Great damage has been done to our country. Our elections were left vulnerable to being rigged and stolen, and the trust of the American people was lost. This cannot be allowed to continue. Every American, whether you're a Republican, Democrat, Independent, or otherwise, should be able to agree that we deserve the most secure, honest, and fair election system anywhere in the world. Secure elections should be a partisan, really, we should be together, Democrats, Republicans, Independents, everybody. And it should not be a partisan issue. It should cause to unite us, not to divide us. This should be a cause. We should be united, not divided. In light of the brand new and irrefutable information I have revealed tonight, my administration is in the process of notifying the states whose election data was compromised by the People's Republic of China and many others. We will be working closely to mitigate any harm, and we're taking swift action to ensure that sensitive voter data is better protected so we can never be bought, we can never be hacked, and we can never watch a stolen election again. Tomorrow, the Secretary of Homeland Security will hold a briefing to outline his department's recent work confirming cyber vulnerabilities in our electronic voting systems. They are bad. We're in the process of informing governors, senators, and members of Congress of potential issues in their states. If you look at voting today, it's in such bad shape in so many states, and we are committing to fix it. And we're also committing to be working with those states and local jurisdictions to help them fix and patch known technical vulnerabilities before the midterm elections. We have very important elections coming up. We want those elections to be honest. I've also ordered DHS to notify every state about non-citizens on their voter rolls and direct them to remove all ineligible voters from the lists immediately. But most importantly, addressing this crisis of election security demands that Congress must pass the Save America Act. How easy is that to do unless you want to cheat? The only reason you wouldn't do it is you want to cheat because your policies are so bad and your candidates are so pathetic that you can't get away or can't get elected any other way. This landmark bill requires that all voters must show photo voter ID. How simple is that? Could I have your photo, please? Photo, voter ID. All voters must provide proof of citizenship. Are you a citizen of our country, please? And hopefully there will be no corrupt mail-in ballots, which if you watched California and so many other places, mail-in ballots are inherently corrupt. So you would have no mail-in ballots except for illness, disability, military deployment, or travel if you're going away on business or vacation. These reforms are urgently needed to stop the vulnerabilities that I've mentioned. To all Americans, I ask you to pick up your phone tomorrow, call your representatives in the House and Senate, and demand that they pass the Save America Act without delay. Together, we will restore faith and confidence in our country, and we will be bigger, better, and stronger than ever before. Thank you. God bless you. God bless our great military, and God bless America. Thank you very much.
Wow. Wow. Wow, 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 wow. Okay, so many of us thought that President Trump's address to the nation tonight would be about the fact that literally as he is speaking, the United States is booming the Islamic regime and sending them to hell. And I'm not exaggerating, because here is literally just some breaking news footage. Okay, so for example, just as, and I'm going to get to his speech in a moment, but as wow, oops, sorry, I stopped sharing the screen. Wow, wow, wow. So as President Trump was speaking, the United States is literally like they're boom booming. Right? So this is in is this Bandarabo. So like the United States is booming IRGC bases, but not only the bases, they've also started going after the bridges and the power plants, right? So not only, okay, so here's my initial take on what President Trump was talking about, and then I'm also going to get to the White House. The White House, where is it? Where did I have it? Here we go. I'm also going to get to the White House releases, but like I just want to give you my initial thoughts and analysis on this. First of all, remember when I made a video explaining that the reason President Trump is going to China, right? And sure, like he says things like, "Oh yeah, like Xi Jinping or whatever. Yeah, we respect him and blah blah blah," right? That's just politics. That's diplomacy. President Trump had literally convinced China and all of the Trump derangement syndrome people and the Democrats that he thought China was an ally. Well. Goldie is always right, because when he went to Beijing, I literally said this is a show of strength. He took Secretary of the Treasury, Scott Bessent, with him. He took Secretary of State Marco Rubio. By the way, Marco Rubio is sanctioned by the Chinese communists, but President Trump said no, Marco Rubio is coming, and the Chinese communists had to, make a workaround to allow Marco Rubio to temporarily come in. He also took with him Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of War. Why would President Trump take the Secretary of War on a diplomatic peace trip to China? Right? Anyway, so a lot of people were claiming that President Trump is being fooled by the Chinese or blah blah blah, and I was like, no, this is a show of strength. This is just political diplomacy. President Trump is making his mark, and before and after they went to China, Scott Bessent had been targeting the Chinese communist companies that were working with the Islamic regime. So here's the thing. Even though President Trump did not directly speak about the Islamic regime, he knows that China is one of the main backers of the Islamic regime. Now, will China actually get militarily involved? No. The Chinese Communist Party is not stupid enough to risk its neck for the Durka Muslim jihadi Nazis who are occupying Iran. The Islamic regime, right? They literally think that they are the equals of CCP and Putin. Okay, they think that they're equal playing partners, but they're not. The Islamic regime, like I said, they're literally an inbred, savage, Durka, jihadi, insane Muslim Nazi occupation. Now, have China and Russia been taking advantage of occupied Iran? Yes, absolutely. Putin and the CCP are just as responsible for the oppression of the Iranian people. There's a number of European countries as well. I'm not going to get into that right now because now is not the time. But I'll get into that in the future. And I will call out those European countries, the governments, not the people. Because again, I always talk about governments. I don't talk about the people. There are a number of European countries whose governments also support the Islamic regime behind the scenes, right? There's billions of dollars of money going back and forth. And so their hands are also red with the blood of the Iranian people. However, what's really interesting is that the Islamic regime was banking on China convincing President Trump not to attack them, right? The Islamic regime, the insane third world Durka jihadis that they are, was like they were literally convinced that the United States won't do anything because if they try something, China will intervene. Well, not only has China not intervened, I mean, they have behind the scenes through their, they have a few companies that do like satellite imagery and stuff. And so Chinese companies have given away the locations of American military assets to the IRGC. But the Islamic regime really thought that China and Russia would intervene when push comes to shove. Not only has that not happened, President Trump is now openly calling out China. The CCP. I should be clear. I should be specific. The CCP. Because I want to be very clear. You know how like for us Iranians, it's like a stickler for us when someone calls it Iran instead of the Islamic regime. Same thing. So we shouldn't call it China. We should call it the CCP or the Communist Party, because of course the numerous Chinese people are fighting for their liberation against communism. And in fact, I am blessed to know so many amazing Chinese Canadians who support me, support my channel, and they support the Iranian people. So I just want to be very clear. Whenever I say like the name of a country, I will try to correct myself and be more particular and more specific, the exact same way that, I'm particular and specific about occupied Iran and the Islamic regime. So, yes, President Trump is going after the CCP. Literally, like what? How long ago? How long ago did he go to Beijing? It was like what, 2 months ago? He went to Beijing 2 months ago, and the CCP held this like insane, supposedly insane, like welcome ceremony for him, or whatever the case might be. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Listen, Chinese immigrants everywhere are amazing people, right? Like, just like the Iranian people, the vast majority of Chinese people who've left China, it's because they've escaped communism, right? So, Chinese people are amazing. Like, they integrate very well, and they always contribute to society. And the Chinese people have very similar values to the Iranian people in terms of, like, raising your children to be productive members of society, right? So it's basically like doctor, lawyer, or engineer, or whatever the case might be. So yeah, Chinese people are amazing. I have a lot of respect for the Chinese people, and I really support their fight to overthrow communist China. And yeah, we're all united, and that's why I call all of us patriots, because anyone who is fighting communism or these authoritarian dictatorships or whatever the case might be, we're all patriots. We're all fighting for our countries, and we're all united. So there you go. Yes, sending love to all of the Chinese people who are watching or watching the live stream afterwards. And of course, all of my friends and supporters within the Canadian Chinese community. Love you all. I don't know that much Chinese though. All I know is I know 谢谢, which is thank you. So that's all I know. So 谢谢. But yes, President Trump calling out the Chinese Communist Party literally 2 months after he visited Beijing. And a lot of people were criticizing President Trump for going to Beijing, and they were like, oh, President Trump is just, bending over for the communists, and President Trump loves dictators, and, blah, blah, blah. But as you can see, everything has a purpose, and everything he does, there's a reason behind it. And you might not know initially what that reason is, but that's how politics works, right? 95, and I say this as a former politician, 95% of politics happens behind the scenes. The 5% that you hear about is pretty much like when something's been concluded or when something is being announced. So this is going, and also I just want to point out, I find it absolutely hilarious that President Trump delivered this address to the American people while the Islamic regime is being boom-boomed to heck, okay? And yet President Trump he didn't even bother to mention the Islamic regime. So this is like a double insult. It's a double insult because on one hand, President Trump is calling out the CCP, which has been secretly, you know, supporting the Islamic regime. And then number two, he's insulting the Islamic regime by not even mentioning them, not even as an afterthought, right? Like he did not even mention the Islamic regime during his address to the American people, while simultaneously they are literally booming IRGC bases and targets, right? So this is just another way for President Trump to, send a message to the Islamic regime that you guys are nothing, you guys are irrelevant, and the fact that he didn't even mention them, I feel like President Trump has kind of made up his mind about the Islamic regime. I mean, I could be wrong. But I feel like with the way he is behaving right now, the fact that he's not even legitimizing the Islamic regime by mentioning the fact that CENTCOM is literally booming them to heck, kind of makes me feel like he's made up his mind about what he wants to do with the Islamic regime. Now, this could be wishful thinking. I don't know. I could be wrong. We'll have to wait and see. But that's sort of, this is just, my initial assessment. And then, of course, he gets into all the voter fraud stuff, which, again, like as a former politician, my mind is like, I still don't understand how there are certain places in the United States where you can vote without proving that you are a Canadian. So my Canadian came out. Sorry, Freudian slip. I cannot believe that there are certain places in the United States where you can vote without proving that you are an American citizen and, showing some sort of proof of your American citizenship, right? Like that's absolutely wild to me that this still happens, right? So President Trump calling this out, like I'm like I said, I don't usually get involved in like domestic politics, but you guys need to like get the Save America Act passed like ASAP, because to me it seems pretty obvious that there are so many non-US citizens who are voting because they don't actually need to show proof of citizenship. Like, how is that even a thing? How is that even a thing in the United States? It literally makes no sense to me. Makes no sense to me. So, yeah. Now I honestly, like, I knew that there was like some fishy things happening when it came to the elections. I didn't realize it was that bad. And so now I understand why President Trump is calling this bill the Save America Act, because it's literally saving America from the mass migrants and the illegal immigrants, right? Like, mandatory voter ID should be a thing. How else are you going to protect your country and your democracy if you can't prevent non-citizens from voting and influencing the elections of your country, right? Like it's very weird. It's very weird. So yeah, I fully support President Trump on this. But okay, so let's get to the White House press release. So this is what the White House put out. Wait, this was September 22. No, there was a new one. Where's the one that I want? Okay. Why does it say September 22? Okay, this is the one. Sorry. July 16. July 16th. So this is the White House press release, okay? So Trump administration unleashes global campaign to crush radical left terrorism. By the way, do you guys know who was, okay, pop quiz time. Pop quiz time, pop quiz time. Who is the person who has been warning Americans for the last several years about the unholy alliance between the red and the black? Black being Islamism and red being communists, leftists, and Antifa terrorists. Who's the person? Who's the person that's been warning the United States for okay, that's cheating. You're Iranian. You're Iranian, Omid. That's cheating. No, not 2C. Yes, the Shah. I mean, yes, I've been speaking about it. 2C's been speaking about it. Others been speaking about it. But the main person, remember, the main person, exactly, King Reza Pahlavi. He has been speaking about this and warning everyone about this for a very, very long time. So let me, and guys, I'm not exaggerating. I'm not exaggerating, right? Exactly. The Shah. There's a Pahlavi, the Shah. Well, it's not that being Iranian is cheating. It's just, I know all Iranians who are watching, they know the answers to my pop quizzes, but you know, so it's kind of like if you're Iranian, you're cheating on the pop quiz because you already know. Professor Duck says Shah. Yes, exactly, the Shah. You didn't say not Iranians. It's implied. ببین خودتون میدونین وقتی یه پاپ کویز میکنن برای شما نیست. خب ما هممون میدونیم کی این صحبت رو میکنه ولی it's okay. It's okay. Oh no! What did I do to my nails? I don't know what did I do to my nails? What kind of a weird troll comment is that? Like, are you a troll? Should I ban you? Like, what did I do to my nails? I painted my nails. I got my nails done. That's a very weird and bizarre question. I don't know if you're a troll or not, but that's weird. That's weird. You should stay in your lane. Anyways, let me go to the warning. Let me go to... See, Nathaniel says Bissu's him. Should I Bissu's him? No. We'll give him another chance. We'll give him another chance. Anyways, so... You know what? I actually, before we get to President Trump's press releases and this White House press release, let me share with you the warning that His Royal Highness, the Shah of Iran, Reza Pahlavi II, and this was, I'm just going to share the beginning. But this was his speech at the National Conservatism Convention 2 years ago. 2 years ago. I think it was July of 2024. So let's watch this video. Just the intro part from 2 years ago. And then we'll get to President Trump.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Western civilization, and the United States in particular, is at risk. I say this because this is exactly what happened to my country 45 years ago. Iran, you might say, was the testing grounds for what my late father called the unholy alliance of the red and the black, radical Marxism and radical Islamism. These two ideologies converged not to create, but to destroy. Indeed, to destroy the very notion of Iran. As the Ayatollah Khomeini himself, upon his return to Iran, said, "Patriots are of no use to us. We need Muslims. Islam is opposed to nationalism because nationalism means we want a nation, nationhood, and not Islam." He quickly put his ideology into action. Our National Consultative Assembly became the Islamic Consultative Assembly. Our conventional national army was shunned in favor of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. The lion and sun symbol, which adorned our national flag for centuries, was replaced with Allahu Akbar. This united front of Marxists and Islamists took hold of my homeland, but was never satisfied with just taking over Iran, as these two ideologies do not believe in the concept, much less the border of a nation. Indeed, the Islamic Republic in Iran does not view itself as defending or limited to the borders of the Millat, or the Iranian nation, but rather the Ummat, or the Islamic Brotherhood. This expansion has gone far beyond the Middle East. Every day, we see graphic, distressing images of the consequences this regime's expansion has brought all the way to Europe and the West. From looting universities that were once the envy of the world, to supporting terrorist cells taking hold in Europe, to attempting to annihilate Israel, to expanding its criminal footprint to Latin America. This is not an accident. This is the Islamic Republic's political strategy. I invite you to read yesterday's statement and grave warning from the Director of National Intelligence on this matter. Sadly, this has all too often been ignored by many in the mainstream media and the fellow travelers who have come to dominate the commentariat class. Even this week, we are seeing this fifth column of the Islamic regime rear its ugly head in the media to try to convince you that the Islamic Republic's new president is a reformist. He is no such thing. He is nothing but a loyalist and lackey of this regime, and a proponent of its radical imperialist ideology. As he publicly wrote to the Hezbollah Secretary General, reiterating the regime's commitment to its proxies and their terror just this week. Indeed, the rise of radical Islam around the world can be traced directly back to the success of the Islamic Revolution in Iran and the establishment of this usurping anti-Iranian regime, backed by a minority and sustained through oppression and violence. The problem that began in Iran must be ended in Iran. But do not mistake this as a war between Iran and the West, nor a call for one. It is neither. This is not a conflict between nation states, but the war of a radical internationalist ideology on all nations,
Right? So basically, he's saying this isn't a war between Iran and the United States. This is a war between Islam and jihad and the rest of the world, right? So that's basically what he's saying. And he was saying this 2 years ago, right? He was saying 2 years ago, he was saying that the Islamic regime is engaging in jihad against the United States.
From the Iranian nation to your own. Indeed, it was the great and historic nation of Iran that was the first victim of this unholy alliance and of the resulting Islamic Republic. For 45 years, Iran has been taken captive and my compatriots have been held hostage. They have been held hostage.
Remember, so in this speech, he says 45 years because this speech is from 2 years ago. Right now, it's 47 years, of course.
Not by American sanctions or
Right?
Western captive, and my compatriots have been held hostage. They have been held hostage not by American sanctions or Western policies, but by radical Islamism. But Western political elites have indeed been accomplices, not only in my compatriots being held hostage, but accomplices in the crimes against your own citizens and nations. The chief accomplice of the Ayatollahs in their violent march to their global caliphate has been American political naivete about the true nature of this regime and European guilt and fears of Islamophobia. You do not have to fight the war against this poisonous and murderous ideology on your own, but you must be aware that it is waging war against you. I do have good news, because there is an army rising up against this poisonous ideology, this unholy alliance. That army is the Iranian people, the united Iranian people. Today, I come to you with a message from that rising army, that nation under captivity, those citizens taken hostage. The Islamic Republic may have taken hold of Iran, but it has never taken hold of Iranians' love of country. Today, Iran, inspired by our ancient history and our great civilization, is in the throes of a national revival, a national reawakening, a national renaissance. Iranians are proud, strong people with a proud, storied history, and are not willing to lose it to this unholy alliance. As my compatriots on the streets or at the tomb of Cyrus the Great chant, we will fight, we will die, we will reclaim Iran. But there are those who stand against them. There are global interests who would rather see the Islamic regime in Iran stay in power. They are making too much money, taking too much advantage, or perhaps it's simply too convenient. I know this because I've had powerful men, wealthy men, well-connected men tell me to stop the fight, to give up the effort, because they have grander global plans at work. Some want to keep the regime in place forever. Some want to light the country on fire so that out of its inevitable explosion, they can create statelets over whom they can play the role of benefactor, master, or God. But I will not stand for this, and I will not give up, for my compatriots deserve better. But do not be mistaken. This national reawakening is an Iranian project, not something to be cooked up in Washington, London, Berlin, or Paris. So why am I here with you today? I am here with a message from my compatriots, a message from the Iranian nation. My friends, the people of Iran would like to see you in the United States as a partner. Their message is that they seek not an entangling alliance, but an alliance of shared values and mutual interest, one which will serve Iran's true national interests and your own. Indeed, Iran is one of the few foreign policy questions where the United States can squarely align its interests with its values. While its dictator has attempted to brainwash Iran's youth with daily calls of death to America, my compatriots take to the streets and say, death to the Islamic Republic. And our enemy is right here. You lie when you say it's America. When the regime puts American flags on the ground, my compatriots refuse to step on it and walk around or jump over it. And this is not a new phenomenon. Iranians are the only people in the Middle East who poured onto the streets on September 11th, 2001 to mourn alongside you and to stand with you. They have continued to see both their compatriots and yours killed in aimless conflicts the Islamic Republic has brought about in the Middle East. And they are offering you a solution to free yourselves of these conflicts, rebalance the region, and solve the issues of the Middle East with a Middle Eastern solution. Because while the Islamic Republic seeks to spread its radical caliphate across the region, my compatriots denounce this imperialism and respond with shots of neither Gaza nor Lebanon, my life is only for Iran. They are tired of having their once radiant country run like a radical cause. They want a government that cares for its own and does not spend blood or treasure meddling in foreign wars as it has in Syria, Iraq, Lebanon, and Yemen. They want to return Iran to being a nation state, as we have been for more than 2 millennia. How can all of this happen? My friends, we are not seeking your intervention. We are not seeking your charity. I am not here to ask for your permission to get rid of the Islamic Republic, nor am I here to ask you to do it for us. The true Iran, the ancient Iran, and the soon-to-be free Iran doesn't seek your patronage. It seeks your partnership. It doesn't seek your funding, it seeks your friendship, because our interests are aligned in the most unique of ways. So, as opposed to the growing threat of this unholy alliance of the red and the black, what, my friends, might a partnership with the Iranian nation look like? What will it look like when the sovereignty over our ancient nation is returned to its true sovereign, the Iranian people? Iran will once again be the anchor of peace and stability in the Middle East, so you can finally bring your boys and girls home from faraway lands, but with dignity. Iran will once again be the center of prosperity in the region and a safe haven for foreign investment, not foreign aid. Iran will once again be an ally of the United States and a close partner of both Israel and the Arab states, and see the Abraham Accords hopefully grow to the Cyrus Accords. Iran will once again be the engine of progress, the defender of freedom and righteousness, not the spreader of terror and evil. You notice I say once again, because this is nothing new. This is the type of relations our two nations had before, particularly under the leadership of my father and President Nixon. Then, Iran sought peace and productive relations based on mutual interest with all nations. We were friends with America and its European allies, but we also maintained a balanced foreign policy by having stable, cordial relations with the USSR and China. We worked with both India and Pakistan. We had relations with both Israel and the Arab states of the Persian Gulf. Iran kept the peace in the Middle East, and we can help to do so again. But what is missing? What has prevented this until now has largely been an American policy on Iran, guided by intellectual naivete, based on the false premise that you can change the behavior of those who believe in such a radical ideology. But this is not a conflict between nation states, but against a radical, destructive ideology that cannot be negotiated with. This ideology cannot be reasoned with. It cannot.
So sorry, I very rarely interrupt when the Shah is speaking. However, 2 years ago, His Royal Highness Reza Pahlavi II, the Shah of Iran, the leader of Iran's National Lion and Sun Revolution, he has been saying forever. He's been saying forever, but even 2 years ago in this speech, he's saying you can't negotiate with them because they're not repairable, right? Like you have to just get rid of them, right? So we Iranians, we have been telling you from the very beginning, you cannot negotiate with the Islamic regime. You cannot deal with them. Like you cannot trust them. If their lips are moving, they are lying, right? Like we've known this. We've been saying this from the beginning. And he even said, absolutely, like Jim Grisham, right? This ideology cannot be reasoned with. Like he's basically saying in a very politically correct way, you cannot reason with the Durkas, right? The only thing that you can do with the Durkas is get rid of them because their ideology is garbage, right? The ideology cannot be reasoned with because it's an ideology that, as one of its core foundational pillars, is death to America. So how can you reason with people whose ideology is literally, we want to destroy the United States, right? Let's just go back and listen to that part again, right? This is from 2 years ago. He says this ideology cannot be reasoned with.
Ideology that cannot be ideology.
Right.
Second policy on Iran, guided by intellectual naivete, based on the false premise that you can change the behavior of those who believe in such a radical ideology. But this is not a conflict between nation states, but against a radical, destructive ideology that cannot be negotiated with. This ideology cannot be reasoned with. It cannot be changed. There is no better deal to be made. It must be defeated, which is exactly what my compatriots have been fighting for. Perhaps some of this makes you wary. I know. It should. Some conversations like this in decades past have led your political leadership down the wrong road. In Afghanistan, when 70% of the country's post-Taliban tribal parliament wanted to restore the constitutional monarchy of Zahir Shah because his people saw him, even in his old age, as a symbol and source of national unity, the American administration denied this national claim and this sovereign right. By forcing an inauthentic Western construct on a society with its own traditions, norms, and means of governance, the result was corruption, chaos, and collapse of the state. It was a devastating mistake, the consequence of which we continue to see today. This did not achieve security for America, nor was it successful in defending your values. Today, terrorist attacks are once again launched from Kandahar, and women are once again enslaved in Kabul. Because although America's aims may have been well-intentioned, the failure to listen to Afghans led it down a road to hell, paved with those very same good intentions. Only a few years later, in Iraq, Washington's political elite's arrogance and ignorance subjugated Iraqi national interests and sovereignty to small-minded sectarian interests that not only failed to unite the country, but further divided it. Citizens of Iraq were forced to see themselves not as Iraqis first and foremost, but as members of their religious sect, their ethnic group, or their clan, before seeking themselves as co-equal citizens of their nations. And let us not forget that all of this was brought about with military force. Let me make myself clear. That mistake should not be repeated in Iran, and I will not stand for those radical few who might advocate it, Iranians or Americans. But there is another path to this partnership between these two great nations, Iran and America. A path that rejects appeasement of the radical Islamists who have taken Iran hostage and are taking their war to you right here on American soil. A path that rejects war and the imposition of inorganic Western construct on a proud and ancient nation. This new path, this third way, requires maximum pressure on the Islamic Republic and maximum support for the Iranian people. Iranians are not seeking a handout. They do not want you to change their regime for them. They are fighting on the streets and cities of Iran for their right to life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, and to reclaim their most treasured inheritance, their nation. What they want is for you to stop emboldening their captors and killers by sending them billions of dollars. And as opposed to bring about peace through strength, bringing about chaos through weakness and appeasement. My friends, you have a fight on your hands. But your fight is not with the nation of Iran. Your fight is with the radical ideology of the Islamic Republic and its defenders right here in Washington.
So when he says the radical ideology of the Islamic Republic, that's politically correct way of saying the Durkas, right? So he's basically saying, so he's like 2 years ago, His Royal Highness, the Shah of Iran, Reza Pahlavi II, he was addressing Americans at the National Conservatism Convention, and he said very clearly, your fight is not with the Iranian people. Your fight is with the Durkas and the defenders of the Durkas in Washington, aka the Democrats, right? So he just says it in a more politically correct way, but he's pretty much saying your fight's not with Iranians, right? Because we Iranians, we support the United States, we support Israel, right? Like we are all on the same side. He's making it very clear 2 years ago, your fight is with the Durkas.
My friends, you have a fight on your hands. But your fight is not with the nation of Iran. Your fight is with the radical ideology of the Islamic Republic and its defenders right here in Washington. But you are not alone in that fight, because it is the same fight Iranians are fighting every day on the streets of my country. In the fight between the Islamic Republic and Iran, my compatriots have chosen to step forward, to accept the call of history and fight to reclaim their nation. So have I, and I hope you will join us. For as Burke said, when bad men combine, the good must associate, else they will fall one by one. Being with you just a few days after we celebrated America's Independence Day is quite fortuitous, because some 250 years ago, as he authored the Declaration of Independence, Thomas Jefferson did so inspired by the values of the Iranian King Cyrus. Iranians have never forgotten this connection, and today, as they fight not to create, but to liberate their nation. They are inspired by your struggle for freedom and love of country. Our two great nations share this special bond. Great civilizations, true nations, never remained subjugated. And we Iranians will reclaim our country. As this eventuality becomes a reality, be with us in this fight, not as our patrons, but as our partners, not as our founders, but as our friends. For our battle is won. Thank you.
Javid Shah. So that was the speech by His Royal Highness Reza Pahlavi, the Shah of Iran, and the leader of Iran's National Lion and Sun Revolution from 2 years ago. Literally warning the United States about the threat of communism and how the unholy alliance of the red and the black, when they come together, they can cause problems for countries. Now, I noticed someone in the live stream chat was asking, isn't it called the unholy alliance of the green and the red? No. So the original term was coined by Reza Pahlavi II's father, Shahanshah Aryamir, the unholy alliance of the red and the black. Red being, the communism, Marxism, progressive left, Antifa, whatever. Black being Shia Islam. Of course, once Shahanshah Aryamir coined that term, a lot of non-Iranians stole the phrase, but they changed it because they wanted to make it seem as if they came up with the idea. So they changed the term to the unholy alliance of the green and the red. Green represents Sunni Islam. And then, they've written books about it, and they go around and they talk about the unholy alliance of the green and the red. But they stole that. They stole that concept from the Shah of Iran, and of course, never gave credit. But yes, the original is called the Unholy Alliance of the Red and the Black. That was coined by the Shah of Iran back in the 60s and 70s when he was fighting not only the Islamists, but also the communists as well. So yeah, the original term is the Unholy Alliance of the Red and the Black. But let's go to just the very quick recent updates based on what President Trump announced. So this is what the White House released on their website. So today, the Trump administration convened senior officials from governments around the world to launch an unprecedented global offensive against the transnational threat of radical left terrorism. And now that you all watched that speech from His Royal Highness, the Shah of Iran, from 2 years ago, you can see how dangerous the radical left actually is. Because the only reason that the Islamic regime was successful in 1979 in occupying Iran in a military coup is because they were supported by the radical left. Let me put it this way: the radical left and the Durkas, the Islamic regime, they have one thing in common, okay? They are united in this ideology to destroy Western civilization, okay? So in that goal, they are united. However, they never really talk about what happens next, okay? So what happens when the radical left terrorists and the Durkas, the Islamists, the jihadis, they unite and then they destabilize and overthrow a government Well, you already know what happens next, because that's literally what happened in Iran back in 1979. The progressives, the radicals, the communists, the Antifa, whatever, right? Like all those garbage lefty progressives, communist Marxists, all of them, the red basically, they united with the jihadis, the Durkas. That's what gave the Durkas the manpower that they needed to destabilize and overthrow. And of course, Jimmy Carter, the peanut farmer, helped them, because the Durka Muslim Nazi pedophile Ayatollah convinced Jimmy Carter, gave him literally phoned Jimmy Carter and pinky promised him. He said, I pinky promise you we will be a better ally than the Shah. And Jimmy Carter, the peanut farmer, literally believed that. And I've spoken about that in a documentary, in one of my documentary watch parties. You can go back and find it in my playlists. It's about Khomeini's funeral, Khomeini Khabar Margesh. It's about his funeral. A couple weeks ago, it's like a 2-part documentary watch party. But so they united. And then as soon as the Muslim Durkas were successful in taking over, they immediately turned around and they started murdering the radical left. Okay, so they started murdering the communists and the jihadis and the Durkas and whatever the case might be, right? Because that's what they do. The Durkas, the jihadis, the Muslim Nazis, they will take advantage of you and they will use you as far as you are useful. And then when you stop being useful for them, they will turn around and they will murder you, right? That's literally what they do. So I'm very glad that President Trump is taking the transnational threat of radical left terrorism very seriously, because this is the exact same threat that fomented within Iran in the 50s, 60s, and then eventually in the 70s, it boiled over and turned Iran into a 7th century Islamic hellhole governed by Sharia law. So then the White House press release continues. Secretary of State Rubio exposed the long-standing willful blindness to left-wing violence. Our counterterrorism doctrine has had a blind spot when it comes to extremist violence from the political left. Even today, the very idea that far-left terrorism could be a serious threat is treated as a right-wing fever dream. Now, this is I've actually shared a documentary about this. I'm going to see if I can find the clip so that I can share with you a clip of not the Muslim Nazis, not the Durkas, but the radical far left terrorists. I'm gonna find out while I'm sharing this video from Marco Rubio.
For far too long, however, our counterterrorism doctrine has had a blind spot when it comes to extremist violence from the political left. Even today, the very idea that far left terrorism could be a serious threat is treated as a right-wing fever dream, or worse, as a dangerous fascist conspiracy. It's treated this way by many in the press, by many in academia and our universities, and by many of our legacy institutions. You will no doubt see the dogma rear its head in the coverage of this very conference. In spite of the clear and the undeniable reality, in spite of the objective numbers and statistics, in spite of the fact that in this room today, there are representatives from across the political spectrum, we will hear this kind of organized violence and terror will be dismissed. It will be dismissed as a partisan fiction. A whole industry grew up in our countries around the study of extremism. We have think tanks and fellowships and journals and consultancies with the unspoken understanding among them that the only kind of political violence that was a true threat to our system, that only one kind of political violence was a true threat to the system. A bomb planted by a neo-Nazi group was a nefarious and murderous act of evil. It is. But a bomb planted by a Marxist revolutionary, well, that's just merely a tragic excess of idealism. Perhaps its means were misplaced or overzealous, but its ends were virtuous and just. That's the implication of how they treat it. For years, this extraordinary ideological prejudice was embedded in the way we talked about political violence and extremism. It was repeated again and again until it was accepted as the neutral and objective baseline, so entrenched in the mainstream conventional wisdom that it came to be regarded as an apolitical fact. It is the reason why, here in my country, so many people in positions of power have repeatedly dismissed acts of violence and even terrorism as legitimate forms of political expression, so long as they served a left-wing cause. It is why during those so-called George Floyd riots in the summer of 2020, as criminals and extremists burned and looted their way through America's great cities and nearly brought the country to its knees, city governments all across the country simply refused to prosecute the people conducting these acts of violence and terror. It is the reason for the now infamous image, maybe you all recall this, of a news anchor from a very prominent agency, a news anchor standing in a neighborhood consumed in flames. Meanwhile, the chyron on the bottom read that the protests were mostly peaceful. This was something worse than a double standard. Left-wing violence was not just excused, it was treated as sacrosanct, a protected class unto itself. That era has to end.
So that's the first video. This is the second one. So I'm going through. So the White House has posted a number of links. So I've prepared every single one, and I'm just going to go through them for you guys. So that was the first post from Marco Rubio. Here is the next post that the White House has shared on their press release.
And today we face a new wave of this old evil. Here in the United States, the share of left-wing terrorist attacks and plots has risen to levels not seen in decades. In Germany, far-left violence has jumped by more than 40% in just the last year alone. In Greece, more than 80% of radical violence is now driven by far-left and anarchist actors. These are not abstract statistics. Americans have seen what those numbers mean. An all-out assault on our immigration officers, sniper attacks, explosives, armed ambushes, a transgender shooter opening fire on Catholic elementary school students as they pray, his gun marked with slogans like, "Where is your God now?" A healthcare executive executed in cold blood in the streets, multiple assassination attempts on a sitting president, and the murder of the greatest conservative activist of a generation, a man who happened to also be a husband and the father of 2 young children, shot and killed while speaking to a crowd of students.
God bless Charlie Kirk. That one was tough, but that's where the video ends, guys. So that's not me. This is the video that the White House posted. So it ends before he says Charlie Kirk, but we all know he's referring to Charlie Kirk. All right, so this is the next link that the White House posted from their press release.
This is an international conference because we are facing a transnational threat. These are not distinct and isolated cells. They are interconnected networks. They do not recognize our borders. They do not believe, in fact, in the nation state itself. They coordinate, they communicate, they travel, they train, and they act together, sharing the same infrastructure, sharing the same enemies, sharing the same mission. Antifa militants and their comrades travel from across Europe and to the Americas to participate in each other's attacks, to funnel propaganda and training materials and target information through shared encrypted channels, moving through underground networks of safe houses and finance, and sustain their operations through transnational funds. And they work alongside hostile foreign states that share their mission. like Iraq's Iranian proxy networks, who are increasing.
Boom! Boom! Guys, did I call it or did I call it? The unholy alliance of the red and the black. So all of these communists in the United States who are working to destabilize the country, who are engaging in political violence, who is supporting them? Who is cheering them on? I mean, he says Iranian proxy networks, but it's the Islamic regime, right? Islamic regime proxy networks. So there you go. Unholy alliance of the red and the black. The Shah was right. The Shah was always right. Shah and Shah Aryamer, Ruhat Shad.
Like Iraq's Iranian proxy networks.
Right?
And they work alongside hostile foreign states that share their mission, like Iraq's Iranian proxy networks, who are increasingly intimately tied to leftist militant groups around the world. The Cuban regime.
Yeah, you know why they're tied to the leftist militant groups? Because they use the leftist militant groups to take over Iran back in 1979. By the way, I found the footage. I found the rare documentary footage, and it's in English, by the way. It's in English, so you'll appreciate this. Rare documentary footage from the late 1970s showing exactly who these leftist terrorists were. And I'll get to that momentarily when we're done with these clips.
Sprawling intelligence and ideological network helped to build the far left in our country and in our hemisphere. And it remains inextricably linked to the far left groups and movements across and beyond the West. Today's far left terrorists can raise money in one country. They can host their communications in a second country. They can receive training in a third country. They can recruit militants in a fourth country, and then together strike a target in a fifth country. And so we have no choice but to confront this menace together. We will either cooperate across our borders, or the terrorists will continue to exploit the gaps between them.
There you go. So that's that one. Now let's go to the next video that the White House shared on their press release from Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. Texas troops' favorite person within the U.S. administration, by the way.
We have spent decades developing the world's most sophisticated financial counterterrorism capabilities. And now we are mobilizing some of the same tools that we have deployed against terrorists abroad to confront this emerging threat here at home. Like every form of illicit finance, these networks rely on the global financial system. It is our mandate to deny terrorist groups access to those channels. Now, we think of nonprofits and charities as good, altruistic organizations, and most of them are. We think they represent the very best of civil society. Many of them do. But the very qualities that make these institutions worthy of the public's trust can also make them appealing to those who endeavor to exploit them. At President Trump's direction, Treasury is expanding its efforts to identify organizations that abuse charitable and nonprofit structures as vehicles for illicit finance. We are examining where...
Oh, look at that, guys. Well, which group of people is well known for creating fake organizations and NGOs to funnel money for terrorism? Which group of people? Which group of people has a well-documented history of creating fake charities and fake NGOs that literally funds Islamic terrorism behind the scenes? Pop quiz time. Which group? You know, that was a trick question because it's all of them. All of them. Every single one that you're listing right now, right? So it literally proves my point. Look at all these different leftist, communist, jihadi groups that have created so many fake NGOs, right? Like, you're talking about the IRGC, the Muslim Brotherhood, the Somalis in the United States, the Palestinians, of course, the Palestinians, USAID, UNRWA, all these various organizations, with these fake charities for these fake leftist causes. Yeah, all of these. Literally, it's like an international global network of leftist shell companies that are created, and they call themselves, like, oh, social justice warriors, but it's literally just a global network that they've created to funnel money for leftist terrorism in order to destabilize the United States and other Western countries. So yeah, there you go. Yeah, Daniel is right. All of the above. All of the above. So yeah, I know I kind of gave the answer away. So there you go. Yeah, they're all the same. They're all the same. So pop quiz, bit of a trick question, but you guys got it. Yep, CARE is definitely one of them. The pro-Palestine NGOs. Oh yeah, exactly. Right? Yep, you all win because guys, all of your answers were correct. So everyone gets an honorary shout out. Everyone is number one. Everyone is number one. You all get 100% on this pop quiz. Yep, Qatar, UN, USAID, all of them. Yep, you all get 100%. Soros, yep.
Tax-exempt status has been exploited.
So let's go
Where
back.
charitable identify Trump's direct, make them appealing to those who endeavor to exploit them. At President Trump's direction, Treasury is expanding its efforts to identify organizations that abuse charitable and nonprofit structures as vehicles for illicit finance. We are examining where tax-exempt status has been exploited, where charitable entities have become financial conduits for foreign influence activity, and how those entrusted with stewardship of these organizations have instead enabled violence. Where the evidence leads, we will not hesitate to follow. And of course, we will hold these organizations, officers, directors accountable. And just as financial institution must know their clients, they must know their grantees. That work is well underway. In the fall, the United States designated 4 far-left Antifa extremist groups abroad as foreign terrorist organizations, denying them access to the U.S. financial system and depriving them of resources they need to carry out attacks. Meanwhile, in this administration alone, OFAC has also sanctioned 17 sham charities and nonprofit organizations for funding Hamas's terrorist activities and operations. As Treasury can
Boom! Guys, I called it. I told you, all of these like fake Palestine charities, they're literally funding Hamas. Did I call it or did I call it? Right? All of these like Islamic charity for Palestine. Oh, Islamic zakat or whatever they call it, right? They're like give us like Islamic donations for Allah because this is going to go help the people of Palestine, right? Literally all of it is garbage. It's literally a front for terrorism. And keep in mind, when I was an elected official in Canada and I was calling this out, I was accused of Islamophobia by, God, you know what? I'm not even going to say his name because if I say his name, then I have to swear and I don't want to swear tonight. So yeah, you guys all know who I'm speaking about. FFDF, the acronym FFDF. So FFDF kicked me out of the Progressive Conservative Party of Ontario, which is like the the provincial Conservative Party of Ontario. I mean, it was conservative until FFDF came in and basically like occupied the party, and now it's like more leftist than like a jihadi group. But anyway, so yeah, I was accused of Islamophobia and kicked out of my political party for literally saying the exact same thing that Scott Bessent is saying right now. Okay, so I might be early, but I'm never wrong. I might be early, but I am rarely wrong, because everything that Scott Bessent is saying right now, this is what I was calling out years ago. And I was saying all of these like Islamic charity groups for Palestine and their fake, their fake whatever, right? Their fake identity, their fake country, their fake flag, whatever. It's basically a front for Islamic terrorism. It's a front for jihad. And these organizations, so the exact same organizations that right now are being sanctioned by the United States, these organizations not only have tax exempt status in Canada, but these organizations are the ones, by the way, these are unelected Muslim Durkas, right? So these unelected Muslim Durkas, they've come to Canada. They're affiliated with CARE. You all know CARE, right? The Muslim Brotherhood. They're affiliated with CARE, and they've made their own organizations in Canada. And, they rely on money from the Islamic regime funneled through, their shell companies so that you can't trace it back to the Islamic regime. And they basically, they put big politicians in their pockets, right? So FFDF is literally a puppet of these Muslim Brotherhood organizations, because their fists is like so up his rear end that he's basically become a marionette, right? So imagine imagine like FFDF here, and this is his rear end, and these are the Muslim terrorist organizations in Canada, right up his rear end, so far up his rear end that their hands are literally controlling his mouth. So every single time FFDF speaks, it's because he's basically like a puppet of the Muslim terrorist groups that are literally now being sanctioned and investigated by the United States. And because I had the audacity to call out these Muslim terrorist groups 2-3 years ago, FFDF, right, because he's a puppet of the jihadis, Goldie's kicked out of the party, right? So there you go. But like I said, I might be early, but I'm rarely wrong. Yeah. I honestly, I should have been an American. I literally should have been an American, because if I was an American politician and I was saying these things, I feel like Americans would appreciate it more, right? I just feel like if I had been an American politician when I was exposing all of this Durka jihadi stuff, I would have been appreciated, as opposed to being accused of being Islamophobic in Canada. But anyways, everything happens for a reason. There you go.
Continues to map and disrupt the flow of funding charities. And meanwhile, in this administration alone, OFAC has also sanctioned 17 sham charities and nonprofit organizations for funding Hamas's terrorist activities and operations.
Palestine.
As Treasury continues to map and disrupt the flow of funding that enables these entities to operate, no terror organization should delude itself into the belief that its financing lies beyond our reach. No facilitator should assume that anonymity confers impunity, and no jurisdiction should expect to enable or harbor these activities without consequence.
Guys, I can't run for office in America because I'm not an American citizen. I would love to. I don't know. I think it would be kind of cool to become like an American politician, but I'm not an American citizen, so I can't run for office in the United States. But who knows? Maybe at some point, some American politician will want me as, like, I don't know, an advisor on, you know, how to deal with Durkas and call out like terrorists and stuff, right? That would be pretty cool. Like I like being a political advisor would be kind of cool. So, but yeah, like I'm not an American citizen. I can't run, guys, I can't run for office in a country that I'm not a citizen of. I'd have to apply for citizenship, and that's like a very big process. So, can't do that. But okay, let's go to the next video. And this is Stephen Miller.
One of the hallmarks of left-wing violence and terrorism is its completely pretextual and disingenuous appeal to civil liberties in an effort to shield its own violence. This is the tactic that the left always uses to try to protect itself from facing criminal punishment. It is essential that we are wise enough and strong enough to understand that these appeals must fall on deaf ears. When the leftist, who does not believe in freedom, who does not believe in civil rights, who does not believe in any ordered notion of justice, protests that we are violating his rights, understand that he is lying to try to persuade people who are not closely following the political scene that some injustice has been perpetrated against him. We must stay the course and be completely unflinching in the pursuit of justice against these enemies of civilization. If the left is allowed to use the real or actual threat of violence to destabilize our institutions, then those institutions cannot and will not succeed.
So that's the first.
Here in the United States, we have taken the necessary
that's the first
and essential action. The necessary and essential action.
Sorry, there was like double repeating. Anyways, here is the second clip from Stephen Miller.
Here in the United States, we have taken the necessary and essential action of formally recognizing left-wing violence as a form of political terrorism that is a direct threat to our national security and the survival of our Republican form of government. President Trump issued a directive, in our parlance, it's called a National Security Presidential Memorandum, or NSPM, NSPM 7 to be exact, that directs for the first time in American history all of our law enforcement and intelligence agencies to work together to disrupt, identify, defund, debank, arrest, and prosecute these political terrorists that are operating in our country. It's very important to understand that left-wing political terrorism seeks as its ultimate end the overthrow of our system and form of government.
Boom! Guys, that's exactly what happened to Iran in 1979. It was the leftists, the left-wing terrorists, right? The Army of the Red, communists, Marxists, Antifa, all of these violent lefty terrorists who wanted to overthrow the Shah and impose their own weird communist hell that united with the Durkas, right? Because remember, the left and the Muslim jihadis, they are united in their goal to overthrow and destabilize Western governments and take over. Now, they've never actually thought about what happens the day after, right? But when you want to know what happens the day after, just look at occupied Iran, right? Because when the left joined up with the Muslim Nazis, the Durkas, the left was essentially the muscle. The left was the muscle. And keep in mind, when the American hostage situation happened back in 1979, it was the communists, it was the radical left communist university students who actually went and took over the American embassy and took all of the Americans hostage. And then the Muslim Durkas, because, you know, they didn't want to side with the United States over the, you know, their own people, they were like, yes, we support the students doing this. So keep that in mind. Remember that. The American hostage crisis was initiated by the radical left, by the communists. It wasn't the Muslims. However, once the radical left took over the embassy and took all the Americans hostage, the Muslim Durka radical Nazis were like, oh, what a great idea. Allahu Akbar, death to America, right? But it was the communists. It was the radical left. It was the radical left terrorists that initiated the American hostage crisis. Okay? That's exactly what you're seeing today because history repeats itself.
Arrest and prosecute these political terrorists that are operating in our country. It's very important to understand that left-wing political terrorism seeks as its ultimate end the overthrow of our system and form of government. And we've seen this has taken place many times in many places throughout the years, and Secretary Rubio has provided you many examples. Left-wing terrorism always ends in bloodshed, misery, and suffering. It only can travel in one direction. There's no point at which the left-wing terrorist is satisfied with his gains and ceases progressing. Inevitably, left to run its course, it always becomes a gulag. It always becomes the mass imprisonment of political enemies, the stripping of their rights and freedoms, inflicting immense pain, humiliation, suffering, in order to establish complete and total control. Control through psychological and physical and actual terror. And we have...
Yeah, what country does that sound like, guys? What country does that remind you of right now? What he's talking about? What country does that remind you of? What country does that remind you of? Yep. North Korea, Iran. No, Daniel, you can't use that answer every single time. That's cheating. That's cheating. I see what you did there. You can't use that all the time. That's only for once in a while. But yes, it's Iran. Yep. Occupying Iran. Yep. Exactly. Iran. There you go. High IQ chat. Oh, you guys are amazing. All right, let's continue.
Have to understand, it always becomes terrorist travel in one any example. And we've seen this has taken place many times in many places throughout the years, and Secretary Rubio has provided you many examples. Left-wing terrorism always ends in bloodshed, misery, and suffering. It only can travel in one direction. There's no point at which the left-wing terrorist is satisfied with his gains and ceases progressing. Inevitably, left to run its course, it always becomes a gulag. It always becomes the mass imprisonment of political enemies, the stripping of their rights and freedoms, inflicting immense pain, humiliation, suffering, in order to establish complete and total control. Control through psychological and physical and actual terror. And we have to understand that that is the scope and the extent of the threat that we face.
He's not exaggerating. I've shared this documentary before, but I want to share this part about it again, because this really goes into, this is rare footage. This is rare, hardly ever seen footage of an English documentary about Iran. I think it was filmed in 1977. So 2 years before the leftists helped the Islamists take over.
Taken an enormous gamble. He has staked his own immense prestige on making the party work.
So
What the party is
let me get to the part about the jihadis.
fundamental domestic issues. Support your ideals, have a very clear and specific vision of the Iran they want to
Here we go.
belong to or support the old establishment. Those who in their hearts are fearful of change because they feel their own positions would be threatened by it. Some of the younger and more progressive Iranians who support your ideals have a very clear and specific vision of
This is our beloved Shah, by the way. This is our beloved Shah Aryamith. He is the father of the current Shah.
the Iran.
And just listen to how he speaks English. Okay, so compare how our Shah spoke English to the current Durkas and, you know, their English language skills, right? So, oh wait, what happened here? Oh no, I lost it. Sorry, guys. Where'd it go? Where did it go? Oh no. Oh no. Technical difficulties. Sorry, guys. Sorry, guys. Give me one moment. I will bring it back. Okay. Here we go. Here we go. So I want you to compare our Shah, our beloved Shah, and how educated he was. Compare his English language skills to the current Durkas, okay? Like, it's not even comparable. It's not even comparable. Yes, Texas, I agree. Magbar technical difficulties. Oh my gosh. But guys, just watch this.
They say, and perhaps you yourself, too, playing a constitutional role rather similar to that of the monarchy in Britain. Is this a vision of the future that you could share?
Well, if this is what our people want, and if they are ready for it, who cares? Why not?
Does that sound like a dictator to you? He's like, if this is what the Iranian people want, if they want, you know, a different sort of democracy, why not? Like, if they're ready for it, let's give it to them, right?
But you said those more progressive. I don't know if I would call that progressive. The only thing I can accept for my country are the results. With what kind of system are we going to get the best?
So this is where we need the hashtag, the Shah was always right, okay? Hashtag, the Shah was always right, okay? Because even back in 1977, when, you know, this Western journalist was asking him about the progressives, he qualified the answer, right? He's like, well, sounds like, you know, what progressives are you speaking about, right? Because he's thinking exactly about those progressives that today President Trump addressed the American nation about the exact same threat from those leftist progressives. Okay? See? He's like, the progressives, huh?
You said those more progressive. I don't know if I would call that progressive. The only thing I can accept for my country are the results. With what kind of system are we going to get the best results in this country? And this is the only thing that is important to me.
But if they were to turn to you in 5-10 years and say, Your Majesty, we now feel up to the job of making the decisions, we'd like you to stand aside.
Yes.
What then?
Well, I will say, okay, if it is within the framework of our revolution, the 17 points or whatever it is, go ahead. But can, in 20 years' time, we shall be about 65 million people. 65 million people cannot take a decision. You have got to have a hierarchy. In this country, it has been the monarch. It has worked for 2,500 years. We are not going to change what would be eventually best for our country just to please some of your people.
No, I'm not talking about pleasing us. I'm talking about if Iranians wanted to make that system work, have a cabinet democracy.
If they all want it, you can't rule a country against the wishes of the people. This is for sure. Not for a long time anyway. If this is what they want, they will get it.
If Western style...
Guys, who's this? Who's this? Wait, let's go back. Who's that? Who's that? Who's that? Yes, the current Shah. That's the current Shah. That's when he was a teenager. Yes, so he was, I think, like 16 or 17 years old here, right? So this is shortly before he went to Texas. Remember, he went to Lubbock, Texas, for his fighter jet training. This is him in 1977 or thereabouts, right? So right before he went to Texas to train as a military fighter pilot with the Americans at the American base in Lubbock, Texas. Yes.
If Western-style democracy is what the people of Iran want, and if that is what they get, Crown Prince Reza, when he takes over from his father, could have less influence on the decision-making process than any Shah before him. If that happens, Iran will be stepping into the unknown, for the nation has prospered and progressed only when there's been an enlightened king on the throne to make the decisions.
And that's very true, because look what happened. In 1979, the progressives and the Durkas took over, and overnight the country went to hell and turned into a totalitarian Islamic dictatorship, right? This is why we want our Shah back. Like, in our Iranian culture and history, the reason that we call the Shah of Iran Shahanshah means the king of kings. That's because the concept of, kings and, all that stuff in the monarchy, it's embedded into our Iranian identity. And we actually, like, when we say, Shahanshah, the king of kings, that the king of kings, right? So the of kings parts, that's the Iranian people. So basically, the Shahanshah means the king of the Iranian people, essentially, because we've always thrived when we've had a strong monarch who has protected us from the Durkas, from the jihadis, from the terrorists, right? And yes, I see your super chats. I will get to them at the end of the live stream, but I just want to finish this part of the documentary.
Insofar as the search for an effective democracy is concerned, what are the mistakes of the Western models that you specifically want Iran to avoid?
That the party system represents, as I said, not the interests of the nation, the interests of a certain class. This I don't want.
Hey, by the way, what the Shah of Iran just said there, Shahanshah Aryamar, he said one of his great fears is that the parties represent not the Iranian people, but that the political parties will represent the interests of certain groups. Guess what's happening today? Guess what's happening today? The own political party that I was a part of is literally representing the interests of the Muslim Durkas, right? Remember, Doug Ford, right? FFDF. The Muslim Durkas are so far up his rear end that his mouth, whenever it moves, it's the Muslim jihadi Durkas that are moving his mouth, right? I was kicked out of my party. Even though, guys, think about this. A democratically elected Canadian politician was kicked out of her own political party because the unelected Muslim lobby groups accused me of Islamophobia because I was calling out Islamic terrorism. And the political party, right? The political party is more interested about representing the interests of the Muslim jihadis in Canada than they are about representing the political interests of the Canadian people. What happened to, like, I'm just realizing this right now. What happened to me is exactly what the Shah of Iran 50 years ago, he was saying this is his biggest concern about political parties. His concern is literally exactly what happened to me. Oh my gosh, like I'm just connecting the dots right now. Right? Like I'm literally connecting the dots right now. I've watched this before, but I just, oh my gosh.
Want Iran to avoid.
Once prospered and progress.
Right?
Insofar as the search for an effective democracy is concerned, what are the mistakes of the Western models that you specifically want Iran to avoid?
That the party system represents, as I said, not the interests of the nation, the interests of a certain class.
What?
This I don't want. In this country, we have almost a constant coalition of all the people gathered in one national endeavor to keep and to make the country progress. I'm not going to lose that. And I'm not going to let what we can see in other countries happening here.
The Shah believes that democracy without discipline is a recipe for anarchy. What he sees happening in some of the liberal democracies of the West is a drift towards anarchy. And that's what he's trying to prevent in Iran. These are some of the weapons taken over the years from Iranian terrorists.
Guys, okay, so now we get to the fun part. So now we get to the part that relates to, I mean, all of it related to what President Trump was saying, but now we're getting into the terrorists. So let's see who these terrorists are. Okay, these are all the weapons confiscated by the Shah and his government.
These are some of the weapons taken over the years from Iranian terrorists. This museum is in a room at Evin prison where some of the hardcore members of various Iranian terrorist groups who've been captured are locked up. The child's doll was used to carry explosives from one terrorist base or safe house to another.
Oh, okay.
The Shah has all along maintained that sabotage and terrorism in Iran is financed and directed from outside the country.
Oh wait, isn't that exactly what Scott Bessent and Marco Rubio and Stephen Miller and President Trump said today? Isn't that exactly what President Trump and his administration said today? They said that far-left radical terrorism is financed and coordinated by actors outside of America. Yeah. That's exactly what was happening in Iran in the 1960s and 70s.
Shah has all along maintained that sabotage and terrorism in Iran is financed and directed from outside the country. One main reason for believing he is right is that under his leadership, the progress Iran has made leaves no real political basis for the kind of internal discontent which would be required to motivate and then support homegrown terrorism. But also for consideration is the evidence of those who've served the cause of terrorism and are now in prison. Sadek Sibakalem Mofrad was a student at Bradford University in England.
Who was actually...
Okay, so look at this. A radical, jihadi, leftist, communist terrorist. He was studying in the United Kingdom. Does that sound familiar? All these radical university students in your countries that are being indoctrinated and are becoming part of like Antifa or whatever, or they're, you know, engaging in terrorism. Yeah, he's not, guys, this one, he's not a Durka. He's not a Durka. He's a communist. He's a leftist. He's part of the far left. The you know, the far left that President Trump and Marco Rubio and Scott Bessent and Stephen Miller are warning you about today. Yeah, this is the far left. This is the far left in Iran in the 1970s.
The cause of terrorism and are now in prison. Sadek Sibakalem Mofrad was a student at Bradford University in England.
Who was actually making the decisions about tactics and opposition to the regime, whether it was killing, whether it was sabotage or whatever? Who was basically dictating the pattern of tactics?
Well, we were primarily against the regime. But to answer your question as to who guided us for our tactic, it was, as far as I know, it was after a sitting that we had in Germany, and there were some Arab extremists who later on we found that they had links with Habash and some other Palestinian extremist group.
Oh, guys, look, guys, who was engaging in all of the terrorism? It was the Palestinians. It was Yasser Arafat. Yasser Arafat and the garbage Palestinians, their garbage ideology, their garbage country, their garbage flag, everything about them is garbage. Garbage, 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 okay? Because literally in the 1970s, the Palestinians were engaging in terrorism, and they were working hard to take over and occupy Iran. And unfortunately, they were successful in 1979. There you go. Let's listen to that part again where he mentions the garbage Palestinians.
And there were some Arab extremists who later on we found that they had links with Habash and some other Palestinian extremist group. In fact, it was after this sitting with these people that we decided, after a lot of conversation with them, that the tactic from now on should be a sabotage, assassination, in simple word, urban guerrilla warfare.
But whenever these decisions were taken at various meetings, the point that I'm trying to get at is that it was non-Iranians, basically, who were taking these decisions?
Well, because non-Iranian were much more involved and much more politically minded than we were, naturally, whatever they told, we accepted it because we looked upon them as people who know better than we do. So whatever they said in the respect of the tactics of the movement, we accepted it as a good experience.
And who was, as far as you know, and you were involved with carrying money from Britain to Iran, who was providing the finance for the guerrilla terrorist activities inside Iran?
Well, first, we thought that it was money that the Iranian people had collected, our friends, Arab students, Palestinian students, Greek students, etc., had collected. But later on, when I got back to London and I got to know more these people, I found out that the money came either from the Habashis movement or from Libya.
Moffat was arrested while delivering funds from the sources he named to an Iranian terrorist group. He got 3 years. In England, he was a principal officer of an Iranian students' organization, which now claims he was tortured and murdered in Iran.
So yes. So you know how like all the Durkas and all the communists, they claim that like the Shah was a dictator and the Shah was a dictator. The Shah murdered all the political protests, prisoners or whatever, right? So those same Durkas back in the 1970s literally claimed that this terrorist was tortured and murdered by the Shah. And then this, investigative journalist group came to Iran in the 1970s after they heard that he had been tortured and murdered. And they're literally interviewing him. They're literally interviewing a guy that the communists and the Durkas were claiming the Shah had murdered. Okay. And I don't know. Does this look like he's being tortured? The guy's literally like he's like at a resort. He's at a resort. He's painting. Okay. Like he's living a better life in jail. By the way, he was jailed because he was smuggling money for terrorists, right? Like he was literally smuggling money for Palestine terrorists, okay? And he was jailed for 3 years. And this is what he's doing in jail. The Shah literally gives him his own art room and he can just sit there and paint.
When I got back to London and I got to know more of these people, I found out that the money came either from the Habashis movement or from Libya.
Moffat was arrested while delivering funds from the sources he named to an Iranian terrorist group. He got 3 years. In England, he was a principal officer of an Iranian students' organization, which now claims he was tortured and murdered in Iran. Manoucha Salimi is an artist who's given the use of a large empty cell to continue his painting. In 1965, he was sentenced to 3 years imprisonment for his minor involvement in a plot on the Shah's life. After serving 30 months, he was pardoned by the Shah and released. In 1973, he was arrested for taking part in another plot, this time an attempt to assassinate several members of the royal family.
So do you now understand why we say that you cannot reason with these people? Because he was involved in a plot in the 1960s to assassinate the Shah. He was given 3 years in jail. The Shah pardoned him early, right? The Shah was like, you know what? I forgive you. Go live your life, carte blanche. What did this guy do? As soon as he became free, right? Yeah, the Shah pardoned him. Yes, the Shah literally pardoned him for trying to, for trying to assassinate him, right? Again, this is the same Shah that these people claim, the Shah was a dictator, right? So the Shah pardoned him. What does he do? He goes right back to terrorism, and then he gets rearrested in the 1970s for being involved in another attempt to murder the family members of the Shah, right? The only mistake that the Shah of Iran made back in the time, the only mistake that he made is that he was too nice. He was too lenient on these garbage terrorists, right? He was too lenient on the cancer. That literally the only criticism that I ever have about our beloved Shahanshah Aryamir, he was too lenient. He was too lenient. But you know what? I feel like he was too lenient because he was also ahead of his time. So how could if he went very hard on them, we would never know how evil these people are, right? So I mean, he tried his best, and you know, back in 1979, when the Durkas and the communists were taking over with the help of, you know, Jimmy Carter and the Democrats and France and the UK, the Iranian people, we were silent. We were silent at the time, and we've been paying the price for that ever since. And that's why this time around, this is why we refuse to be like. This is why we Iranians today, we are unapologetic. We do not apologize. We do not give in. We do not mince words. This is why we say a terrorist is a terrorist is a terrorist, right? So especially for all of our American viewers who are watching right now, right? I hope that this gives you some context as to the seriousness of the threat from the radical left that President Trump is talking about today, right? In his speech. That's why I'm sharing this documentary, because this is the radical left in Iran in the 1960s and 70s that literally contributed to the destabilization of our country.
Salimi told me the group of which he was a member was made up almost entirely of Iranian students returning from abroad. I asked him what they told him was their reason for wanting to kill the Shah.
Because the Shah was a symbol of the country, particularly as we had a long history behind us, and the king has always been the symbol of the people in the country. For that reason, and in order to create the maximum irreparable shock. That is why this was their aim, the aim of those who wanted this result. I knew nothing about it.
Now, if the...
Wait, someone is asking, was he executed after his second attempt? No. This interview right now, this is when he's in jail after his second attempt. And even after his second attempt to to assassinate the Shah's family members, he wasn't executed. He was put in jail, and the Shah even gave him his own private cell to engage in artwork. So no, he wasn't executed, because this is him. This is him after he gets jailed for the second time. Yeah. This is him after he was jailed the second time.
Plots had succeeded, particularly the last one, and the king and the queen and the crown prince had been killed. Who was going to take over?
I think the answer is very simple. The group, which still exists, some of them in prison, and in general all anarchist activities, are a kind of epidemic. They normally think about how things are to begin, not about how they are to end. They never think so far ahead. For example, if the head of a system is removed, who is to take over? There's no real answer to this question, because even I, when I thought about this, asked myself, what is this for? What will happen next? In fact, none of those people, even Golisorki, the revolutionary leader who spoke so fanatically in court, as you know, he was a completely dedicated communist. Even he did not know what was to happen after the first step.
This is Evin Prison. After what I had read about the alleged police state, It wasn't quite what I had expected. Security at the prison is provided by the military, but as far as the political prisoners within are concerned, it is SAVAK, the secret police, who are in control.
God bless Savak. Let me put on my Savak hat.
SAVAK is an offshoot of the Imperial Armed Forces, but it's not itself a police force. It's what every country has, a national security and intelligence organization.
Yeah, so basically, like, you know how everyone says, oh, the Shah's secret police, right? That's, again, that's historical revisionism. That's Durkheim narrative. That's like Antifa communist narrative, right? Savak was basically the Iranian version of the FBI or the CIA, right? Like, that's literally what Savak is. Every functioning country has their own version of Savak or the CIA or the FBI, right? In fact, the Islamic regime, when, even though the Islamic regime and the communists and the jihadis, they love to attack Savak, right? They have at least 17 different versions of Savak. The Islamic regime has created 17 different intelligence organizations to not only spy on the Iranian people, but to spy on one another. And yet they have the audacity to complain about Savak, right? That's like complaining is like, why does the United States have the FBI or the CIA, right? That's exactly what Savak is. So, I'm wearing my Savak hat here.
Is an offshoot of the Imperial Armed Forces, but it's not itself a police force. It's what every country has, a national security and intelligence organization. It's as such that SAVAK is responsible for watching those suspected of subversive activities and arresting those who are now political prisoners.
Good, I'm glad.
For SAVAK's alleged treatment of political prisoners, and in particular the alleged use of grisly forms of torture during interrogations, Iran is described in the international press as being ruled by one of the most brutal and repressive regimes in the world.
Yeah, so again, remember, the guy is saying alleged, right? Because the people, like the Durkas and the communists who were putting out these insane rumors about Savak, they basically said that the Shah of Iran trained bears, and the bears would rape the political prisoners. So that's why, like, we Iranians, we actually have a meme about Savak bears. Okay, so like the Savak bear is literally a meme because like the Durka jihadi communists, yeah. So some of the horrible ways that the Shah of Iran tortured these communists, I guess, is that yeah, exactly. It's literally, it's like the Mossad dolphins. That's exactly what it is. So yeah, exactly like that. So the same Palestinians who complain about the Mossad dolphins, back in the 1970s, they were complaining about the Savak bears. So they claimed that the Savak bears were raping the political prisoners. And they also alleged that one of the other torture methods for the men is that they would wrap like rope around their genitals, and then they would like hang them from a ceiling fan, and then supposedly the ceiling fan would like slowly rotate, and then these Durkas would, terrorists would be hanging from their genitals while they're slowly being like going around the ceiling fan, which is like the most insane, ridiculous thing I've ever heard of in my life. Because like, first of all, the ceiling fan can't even support something like that. You know, especially those of us who are from like the 70s, 80s, and early 90s. You know, even like if a child tries to like jump up and grab the ceiling fan literally drops and breaks, right? A ceiling fan can't even support the weight of a child, let alone the weight of like a full-grown man. But yeah, these are some of the alleged torture methods of apparently the Shah of Iran, according to these leftist communists, right? Remember, if their lips are moving, they're lying. However, the fake stream media ate it up. The fake stream media ate it up. So, yeah, like very, very like bizarre, weird stuff. Like all of the alleged torture methods that they claim the Shah did, it all basically has to do with like rape or like their genitalia or whatever. Which just, I think, just goes to show like how depraved these people are. Like how sick do you have to be in the head to come up with like these disgusting fake stories, right? And then the fact that anyone even believed this, especially the one about the bears, right? Especially the one about like the Savak bears, like that one to me, I'm just like, how could any rational, logical person actually think that, right? Remember, the Palestinians, aside from the Mossad dolphins, the Palestinians literally have claimed that the IDF has trained dogs to rape them, and they've claimed that Palestinians are being raped in Israeli prisons by dogs. Okay, which is absolutely insane, right? It's insane, but this is the same story. This is the same narrative. Like they literally said the exact same thing about the Shah of Iran, right? Except instead of dogs, it was bears. Okay? Instead of dogs, it was bears. So there you go. Wait. Someone said I should yeah. All right, someone said I should look at something Pete Hegseth posted. Look at that, guys. So remember, I shared this video. So this is just a photo, but I shared the video earlier today. This is the one of the IRGC's command and control towers in it's either Bandar Abbas or Chabahar. I can't remember which city, but it's one of the southern port cities. And yeah, Pete Hegseth just posted this. So good on him. Good on you. What is it? Deuce. How do you pronounce that? I'm going to mispronounce it. Is it Deuce Volt? Deuce Volt? Is that how you pronounce it? Oh my gosh. I'm totally embarrassing myself right now. Is that how it's pronounced? I don't know. I've never actually I've read it, but I know it's Latin, so I don't know if I'm pronouncing it. Oh, Deus. There we go. Okay, so KB Anti-Commie, thank you so much. Deus Volt. Okay, there you go. Deus Volt. Learn something new every day. Hey, guys, I'm Goldie Ghamari, and now I know. There you go. And now I know. Thank you, Americans. So you know what? I see this picture, and my reaction is Deus Volt. Deus Volt. All right, let's get back to this the expose on the communists, right? So now it gets to the good part, okay?
During my investigations on the spot, I found very little evidence to support the allegations and much to contradict them.
Yeah.
Take, for example, the case of Vida Hajabi Tabrizi. By Iranian student groups abroad and their supporters, she is one of the most...
You know what? They always have that look. they always have that like androgynous short haircut look. You know what I mean? Like there are so many amazing, beautiful women who have, you know, short hairstyles and it suits them perfectly. But you can always tell, like, you know, it's literally like the stereotypical lefty look where it's like they're just like, you know, the short hair, the whole like androgynous terrorist thing going on. It's like the only thing that's missing here is her blue hair, right? The blue hair and the nose ring. But other than that, like this leftist terrorist could literally fit in to like the university protests happening in the United States today, right? Literally, she fits in. She fits in. Anyways, this is from 1977, though.
To support the allegations and much to contradict them. Take, for example, the case of Vida Hajabi Tabrizi. By Iranian student groups abroad and their supporters, she is one of the most celebrated of all Iranian political prisoners. She's said to be either dead or, alternatively, so paralyzed by torture that she can't even move. And she is widely reported as being in one or the other of those two conditions.
So according to the student groups at the time, remember, so all those reports that you were hearing about the Shah of Iran being a dictator, they were using Vida as an example of one of the victims of the Shah. And they were claiming that she's either dead or so severely paralyzed that she can't walk. Well, I don't know, man. I mean, if this is dead, like, you know, I don't know, but there you go, right? Do you see how they lie? Do you see how they make up fake news?
To be either dead or, alternatively, so paralyzed by torture that she can't even move. And she is widely reported as being in one or the other of those two conditions. We filmed her unobserved to start with because we were informed that she might act paralyzed if she saw us first.
Ali, would you ask Vida Hajabi if we can talk with her?
I understand what did you say.
You know about all this.
Oh, look, so now as soon as the reporters catch her walking, she's like holding her head as if she has like a headache or a head injury or something, right? So as soon as she notices the reporters, oh no, my head, right? There you go.
Stories in the foreign press that say you were paralyzed.
غلط شدید و اینها شما که الان ماشاءالله خوب قدم میزنید راه میرید. خب راه میرم ولی اشتباه بی خودی حرف بی خود ممکنه بزنن. It is possible that they said everything they want,
but what is your condition? I mean,
I am very good.
You look quite well.
Yes, I am good.
Dr. Seemin Saleheh is another celebrated political prisoner, apparently risen from the dead.
So you see how her face is injured? You know, so she's missing her right eye. You're about to find out why and how her face is injured, because the communists and, you know, the far left, right? So they were essentially claiming that Savak and the Shah tortured her so badly that she lost her right eye. Okay, so that's the claim from the leftists, that her, you know, her face is disfigured due to torture by the Shah and Savak. So let's see where her injury actually comes from.
According to all accounts, she and the baby she was carrying in her womb died under torture in Evin prison in 1974.
Oh, okay.
She lost one eye, she told me, when a bomb that some of her friends were making in a house already under surveillance by Savak agents exploded prematurely.
Oh, okay. So even though the lefties are claiming that the Shah and Savak murdered her and her unborn child. Neither of that is true. And she lost her eye because she was hanging out with a bunch of other terrorists who were building IEDs. They were building IEDs and one of them exploded and went boom boom. So that's how she lost her eye. Right? That's how she lost her eye. And yet, this one is also being, at the time, was being celebrated as one of like the far left heroes that was fighting the Shah, right?
You look quite well.
Yes, I am good.
Dr. Seemin Saleh is another celebrated political prisoner, apparently risen from the dead. According to all accounts, she and the baby she was carrying in her womb died under torture in Evin prison in 1974. She lost one eye, she told me, when a bomb that some of her friends were making in a house already under surveillance by SAVAK agents exploded prematurely.
What happened to Mrs. Sanahi when she was arrested by SAVAK and when she was interrogated? Was she ever tortured? Was she ever...
Yeah, you know, I'm seeing a lot of comments about her like mustache. Yeah, like just why don't you wax that? So, you know, like the unibrow and the mustache, not a big fan, but I mean, again, this is leftists, right? These are the leftists. Like this is no different than like, you know, the modern day leftists who like refuse to, I don't know, shave their armpits or shave their legs and they just walk around all hairy, right? So because, you know, feminism or whatever, right? So this is like the 1970s version of feminism, right? So yeah, just I mean, think about all of the you know, far lefties in, you know, your own countries who refuse to shave, or you know, they have like these huge hairy armpits or whatever the case may be, right? So yeah, that it's the same ideology, right?
beaten up? Was she ever physically assaulted?
نحوه دستگیری من طوری بود که احتیاجی به طرح این مسائل نبود چون
The method of arrest was such that torture and beating were unnecessary.
تیمی ما رو ساواک میشناخت و بنابراین احتیاج نبود.
There was an explosion in the group's house. SAVAK knew where the house was.
من برای اینکه مسئله
Then we come to the question of the information which I had. This presented no problem. I was pregnant at the time. No problem arose because our group's house was known to SAVAK. They didn't have to force me to tell them. Then we come to the question of the information which SAVAK had not got.
Honestly, like با این قیافش آبروی همه زنای ایرانی داره میبره، با این ریخت قیافش، با اون ریش سیبیل نحسش. Like خودم میخوام برم با چی میدونم، like I literally just want to go with like tweezers and just like pluck her chin hairs one by one. Like what is this? Guys, I swear to God, like the vast majority of Iranian women, we don't look like this. We don't look like this. This is just like these are the insane communists, I guess, right? Like this is basically like the leftist progressive feminist hippies from like the 1970s, right? Like look, like just, you know, proper grooming, like I'm a big fan of proper grooming, I'm just saying. This is nasty.
This was obtained as a result of other arrests. I myself twice tried to commit suicide so as not to have to give away information, so that what I knew could not be got out of me. But luckily, or unluckily, I was saved. By that time, SAVAK knew everything. That is why there was no need for torture.
Mrs. Saleh named her baby Sepida, Dawn. The child is growing up in the care of Mrs. Saleh's parents, who are...
So remember the student groups, the communist leftist student groups in the 1970s were claiming that that woman and her baby were murdered by the Shah and SAVAK in 1974. So this documentary is from 1977. not only is that woman alive, but this is her daughter, healthy and well, being raised by her grandparents, okay?
Are allowed to make visits to the prison. Though I sought from all the prisoners I talked with on and off camera an assurance that they were talking to me of their own free will, Mrs. Saleh said afterwards she regretted talking to me because we filmed her child. The most interesting account of why torture for obtaining information is unnecessary was given to me by Kouroush Yakhtari. He was the leader of one of the biggest and most active terrorist groups in Iran. His charge sheet was long and included his involvement in a plot to kidnap the American ambassador. Yakhtari was sentenced to death, but...
Oh, so look at that. So the Shah also imprisoned far-left terrorists who were planning on engaging in terrorism against the United States, right? So not only were the Durkas, like the jihadi terrorists, going after the Shah and his family, they were going after terrorists who are planning on committing terrorism against Americans, right? The Shah was literally protecting Americans, which of course is a responsibility, right? That's, you know, part of diplomacy.
Reprieved by the Shah. He also confirmed to me that his involvement in a plot to kidnap the American.
And then this terrorist was also supposed to be executed, but the Shah pardoned him.
An ambassador. Yakhtari was sentenced to death but reprieved by the Shah. He also confirmed to me that the principal function of student organizations abroad is to promote opposition to the Shah.
Did he dispute any of the charges that were made against him by the security forces?
ما خودمون اقرار کردیم که این کارا رو کردیم. این کارا رو با
We admitted that we had done these things. We did them deliberately, on the basis of previous decisions and planning, because of the hatred we had for American imperialism.
تصمیم گرفته بودیم و بررسی کرده بودیم و به خاطر انزجار
Naturally, therefore, we admitted the charges in court and did so proudly.
ما در دادگاه هم گفتیم خیلی با افتخار گفتیم که بله ما این کارو کردیم.
During his imprisonment for investigation and interrogation, was he ever tortured? Was he ever beaten?
فقط بفرمایید موقع دستگیری چون عمل
At the time of arrest, the village was surrounded. Naturally, one's arms were held and twisted, and one was pushed into the car and handcuffed. That is not torture. It's quite natural. I'm sure that even in Britain, when they arrest Irish nationalists, they don't do so gently or with compliments, saying, please be seated in the car. That is natural.
اداره ساواک
Because SAVAK makes use of advanced American imperialist techniques, please emphasize this, the procedure for arrest and investigation is made easier.
به ساده کردن جریان دستگیری و بازجویی.
Naturally, these methods are different from those of the past. As you know, prisoners were treated differently in earlier times. But nowadays, all the discussions we had in the mountains while we were giving military training to our young recruits were filmed and recorded by telecameras.
کادهای جوان میدادیم اینها رو ضبط کرده بودن. با تلئوبژکتیو فیلمبرداری کرده بودن.
They bugged our houses, they tapped our telephone conversations, and the recordings were available.
گوشی درش بود ضبط شده بود نوارش رو داشتن و طبیعتاً
Naturally, there was no scope for denying anything, so no pressure was needed to make us confess.
So in fact, is Mr. Yakhtari telling us that SAVAK's information about him was so good that they didn't need to torture him?
بله تقریبا میشه گفت اطلاعاتشون اونقدر کافی بود و مدارک و شواهدی رو که تهیه
Yes, this information and the evidence they had assembled was so complete that all I had to do was confirm that it was a picture of me and that I was present at the scene which was filmed. Naturally, I could not deny this evidence because
Look how smug he is. Like he's proud. Like he's like proudly admitting that yes, he was a terrorist and he was engaging in all this terrorism, right? Like these people are like they're a cancer. They're a cancer.
all our friends, all that we had done was nothing to be ashamed of. Indeed, we were proud of it. It was a path we had chosen with pride. Naturally, we confessed that we had done those things.
What was your cover name in the group?
I had several cover names, not just one.
What were they?
Puran, Manouche, Farhan, Layla, Bowie.
Bowie. When you were arrested, what things did you have with you?
Various weapons, a grenade, a dagger.
Dagger?
These weapons here, are they the ones taken from you?
Yes.
Ah. So this seemingly innocent young girl is a radical far left terrorist. Not a Durka, remember, because she's not a Durka, she's not an Islamist. She is a far left progressive terrorist. And do you see how like so soft spoken she is? Like the guy's like, what did you have on you? A grenade, a dagger, this gun, and she's just like, yes, I had all these weapons on me. I was planning on, blowing up the Shah, whatever, right? But yeah, like these are so again, President Trump's announcement tonight about how the United States is going after the far left terrorists. Yeah, we Iranians, we have a lot of experience with them because here they are. These are the far left terrorists back in Iran in the 1970s. Let's continue. Let's continue with this one.
A dagger.
These weapons here, are they the ones taken from you?
Yes.
And these items of equipment too?
Yes, the whole of this lot is mine.
All yours?
Yes.
Tell us, what were your operational activities in the group?
I took part in a reconnaissance operation in connection with blowing up the gendarmerie post at Suleymaniye.
Oh, okay.
I planted the bomb myself.
Oh, wow.
You planted a bomb where?
In Suleymaniye gendarmerie post.
Which post?
Suleymaniye.
Gendarmerie.
Yes.
I see. And what else?
In other reconnaissance operations in connection with the killing of Abu Shariari.
After I had chosen the prisoners I wanted to talk with, I checked and double-checked, as far as I could, the allegations of torture. I also spent many hours questioning and re-questioning senior SAVAK officials up to the level of deputy commander. My impressions, for what they are worth, are these. I suspect that drugs are used on occasions to induce political prisoners to talk. But I am convinced, for reasons explained by Kourouchi Akhtari and supported by all other prisoners I talked to, that a great deal of nonsense is talked and written about the use of torture in Iran today. I am also convinced from the evidence given to me by political prisoners that all Iranian student organizations abroad have strong links with the forces of international terrorism, which are controlled indirectly and directly by Moscow.
There we go. There we go. That's what I was waiting for. That's what I was waiting for. All of these student groups are funded by the Soviets, and I have been saying this to you from day one. Even, remember, Yasser Arafat and the garbage Palestinians, that's also a Moscow-funded project meant to destabilize U.S. interests in the Middle East by going after United States ally Israel. And all of these student groups today, right? All of these student groups in your universities, the Antifa, the commies, the whatever, right? All roads lead back to Moscow. Now, this is back in the 1970s. The Iranian student groups, the Iranian student groups in the universities were all funded by the Soviets. Now, today, you have not just the Soviets, but you also have the CCP. You also have the Islamic regime. You also have Qatar. You also have Saudi Arabia, right? These are the 5 big players. Moscow, Communist China, the Islamic regime, Qatar, Saudi Arabia. Okay? The 5 major players. There are numerous other players as well, but there they are. So instead of the number of these, state actors that are funding far left radical terrorism decreasing, it's actually increased. It's increased. And it all leads back to communism. So this is why the Shah banned communism in Iran in the 1970s, because the communists were literally trying to take over. So I really do hope that someone does a deep dive into all of these so-called American podcasters and influencers. I would be very curious as to where their money is coming from, because all I'm saying is, when you look at the history of Iran, right? Like, this could literally be a documentary, like this could literally be live breaking news about the United States and how the far left is infiltrating the United States. And this fits right in. This literally fits right in. And yet this is a documentary from 50 years ago. This documentary is from 50 years ago, and it is more relevant than ever today. Because what happened to Iran in the 1960s and 70s is right now, at this very moment, happening in the United States, in Canada, in all these Western countries, right? So when we Iranians warn you about these things, we know what we're talking about because we've literally lived through it. It's literally our history. So we know the warning signs. We know the red flags, right? We Iranians, guys, think of us as like the canary in the coal mine. If we Iranians are freaking out and we're like, guys, hey, like red flag, like, no, right? Red flag, take us seriously. So I'm going to leave it there because it is getting late, much later than anticipated. And honestly, like I've already done like a documentary watch party on this, but I promise you we will rewatch this together because I know that this is very interesting. But I hope that what I've shared with you so far, it gives you a little bit more of an understanding into why, at least, I hope at least now you all can appreciate why President Trump's announcement tonight, right, where he says Trump administration unleashes global campaign to crush radical left terrorism. I hope you can appreciate why this is so important, okay? Like, this is one of the most important announcements that President Trump has ever made, because this announcement is literally about saving America. It's about preventing the terrorists from taking over before it's too late, right? Learn from the mistake of us Iranians. All right, let me get to your questions and comments. Guys, thank you everyone for waiting so patiently. I really do appreciate that. So I will get to your questions and comments now. Thank you all for the support. Really means a lot to me. Veteran Hoffman says, woohoo! Oh, I think that was referring to the Epic Fury song I played earlier. Ida Rogozin says, Javicha, love from Israel. Oh, thank you so much. I'm Israel Chai. And, it literally just turned midnight. So it's now officially Friday where I am. So thank you so much. I'm Israel Chai, and Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom to you and to all of our Israeli and Jewish viewers in Israel and around the world. My sister says Goldie is always right. I'm going to screenshot this and I'm going to like save this, and then the next time that we have like an argument or something or a disagreement, I'm just going to send this to you and be like, Goldie is always right because you said it, not me. So there you go. Jeremy Mott, Trump isn't playing games anymore. I agree. I don't think he's playing games anymore. Atki, one of my good mates, not a U.S. citizen, was in school in the U.S. during the 2020 election. His address got a mail-in ballot that would let him vote. Wow. Oh my gosh. Yeah. See, like that just... Yeah, the United States needs much stricter voting laws. You need voter ID. Fubizzle, love the coverage, Goldie. Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm glad that you're all tuning in and we had this documentary. Well, not a well, it kind of turned into a documentary watch party, but we started off with like a President Trump breaking news watch party, which I always appreciate. I really, really enjoy watching all of these with you guys live. So thank you everyone for joining me. And then Eliani says, that was actually shocking. There better be action. Yeah, Eliani's, I believe she's referring to President Trump's statements about, China and the infiltration and all the voter stuff. Yeah, I mean, I hope that there better be action. Omid says, all the regime mullahs were watching, paying attention to every word, but not a mention about Iran. Yeah, exactly. So Omid's referring to my thoughts and comments on the fact that even though the United States is currently booming the Islamic regime to heck, and President Trump tonight had a very big announcement. All the Islamic regime mullahs were watching and paying attention to every word, but President Trump did not mention Iran once. That is another show of strength, and that is definitely part of the power move, right? That's part of the power move. So I definitely appreciated that. Richard became a new member. Welcome, Richard. Stephen Riley, in Illinois, it is illegal to ask for an ID card when... But what? How is that even a thing? Like, what? So you can just walk up and vote without showing ID? Are you kidding me? That's insane. Like, yeah, that is a huge threat to democracy. Oh my gosh. Like, no, that's like, you have to, like, again, like, so what you're telling me is that if I was, let's say, an illegal immigrant in Illinois, I could just go up to a voting booth and just vote and no one could question me on whether or not I'm an American citizen? Like, that's wild. Insane. Yeah, no wonder it's called the Save America Act, because President Trump is literally saving America from the infiltrators. Minor Dine, it still blows my mind that they were so incompetent as to not burn the burn bag. Being both evil and incompetent is no way to go through life. Yeah, I agree. Mr. A81, since the 1980s, I remember Iranian refugees and immigrants have been warning the Western world, do not let them in. It's a shame no one has listened. Yeah, well, whenever we've said don't let them in, we've been accused of Islamophobia, right? So it's really interesting because the far left, the woke left, they actually refer to us Iranians as like fascists or whatever, right? Because they're like, oh, you're not like part of the brown people, right? Like, because we don't fit into their Western narrative of like anti-imperialism or whatever, right? Like, we're very patriotic. Not only do we love Iran, but we're very patriotic and loyal to the countries that we've immigrated to. And we're productive members of society. But yes, we literally have been trying to warn you for the last 47 years, right? Don't let the Durkas in. Don't let the left take over. Don't let the communists take over, because if you allow that to happen, what happened to Iran could happen to your countries. And, we've been accused of Islamophobia or, whatever. So, I mean, obviously we don't care, right? We literally don't care. But yeah, I agree, Mr. Ray. It's a shame that no one's listened to us until now, right? Not a super chat, but Sarah says, tonight is Bisous IRGC. Good. I hope that they are Bisoused to hell where they belong. Ficklenot. This is the challenge, in my opinion, to convince people that Islam cannot be negotiated with, while Islam tries to convince you that it can be negotiated with. Yeah, I mean, all I can say is there's a reason that, non-Muslims are not allowed to go to a Muslim country and put up a, put up a stand and give out free Bibles, right? Muslims can come to your countries and they literally invade Christmas markets and they set up booths and they hand out Qurans in your Christmas markets, right? And that's aside from the fact that now, like in various countries, the police have to put up like barriers around Christmas markets to protect them because, Muslims will ram their cars into crowded Christmas markets because, they believe that they are, fighting jihad. So they believe that it is their duty to murder the non-Christian, the non-Muslims, right, at Christmas markets, right? So not only do, the Christmas markets now have barricades, but, they literally set up booths in your Christmas markets to give out the Quran during Christmas time, right? And then they say, oh, it's freedom of religion. However, I dare, you know what? Actually, no, I don't. I do not dare you. Do not do this. It's a terrible idea. Do not ever attempt to go to a Muslim country and set up a booth to give out Bibles. Do not attempt that ever, because you would not last 10 seconds. You try doing that, your head will be chopped off faster than the Durkas can say Allahu Akbar, right? You go to like a Ramadan whatever, or you try to set up a booth outside of a mosque to just, give out Bibles. Yeah. You would be Allahu Akbar in less than 10 seconds, right? Allahu Akbar in less than 10 seconds. Viperous. I've always seen the unholy alliance of the green and the red as an alliance of communists and eco-terrorists or the climate change alarmist extremists. No, so, I mean, sure, but the unholy alliance of the green and the red, so the green represents Islam, but it represents Sunni Islam because a lot of people took the Shah's original, basically he coined the term the unholy alliance back in the 60s and 70s. But it was the unholy alliance of the red and the black. And then, others took it and then they modified it to make it seem like it was their idea. But they sold the idea from the Shah. Junior Calvin says, God bless the real Iranian people. Thank you. I hope they get their freedom back. Thank you. You are beautiful, by the way. Thank you, I guess. But sure. I mean, guys, honestly, like when it comes to my appearance, I'm like a mid. Like Iranian women are incredibly beautiful. I'm a mid. I'm like a 5 out of 10 on like the Iranian beauty scale. But thank you for that. Appreciate that. I'm just like, I'm literally, my appearance is average. Iranian women are incredibly beautiful. I'm just like a mid. Mark Dennis Fritz says, thank you, Goldie, Ghamari, Aziz. You are part of the success that has helped Trump save America. God bless America. Payand Iran, Javid Shah, Amen. Thank you so much. God bless America and Amen. Junior Calvin, freedom with Goldie, happy life guaranteed. Thank you. Ohana speaks. Goldie, great show. Please move to America. We need your voice, experience, and passion in our fight. If you run for office, many would vote for you. Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that. But again, guys, even if I was going to move to the United States, it would take me like what, 5 to 10 years to become an American citizen. And then after that, like, I don't know. You know, let me put it, you know what? I'll say this. If someone from the US administration called me and said, Goldie, we're willing to give you a citizenship, an American citizenship, if you, give up your Canadian citizenship, I'll be like, done. Yeah. Without hesitation. If someone called and said, you can be an American citizen tomorrow, you just have to give up your Canadian citizenship, I would be like, sure, done, no problem. But that's not going to happen. So, wishful thinking. But I really do appreciate the sentiment. I do appreciate the thoughts. Yeah, it's nice to know that at least, one country appreciates my political efforts, if not Canada. Ohana speaks. Dang, they lied about the Shah. Yes, they did. They've always lied about the Shah. FYI, ceiling fan boxes are typically rated 35 to 70 pounds. The average adult is 137 plus pounds. Physics wins, radical left loses. Yep, exactly. That's exactly what I've been saying, right? Like every single one of their torture stories is fake. Omid Salute says, Cenk, Tucker Carlson, Anna, I'm not going to pronounce that, Megan, and Candace Owens, all the podcastians/leftists, their goal is to let Islam take power of your government. Yes, 100%. That's exactly, I agree. Like I said, all these podcasters, right? All these all these people in Podcastistan or whatever it's called, right? Very weird people. None of them are educated. Like none of them have any real world experience. None of them ever appear on like actual like news outlets or anything like that. And yet they think because they have a big following, that they know what they're talking about. No, they have a big following because it's like an echo chamber, right? But anyways, that's aside from the point. Christian Evan Christensen, you good? Yes, I'm great. Are you good? Thoughts on Baluchistan seceding from Pakistan today? So, yes, this is what I'm happy to speak about this for a little bit. So there, the Baluch people, in, Pakistan, okay, they are severely, oppressed and occupied by the Pakistani government. And they have been trying for a while to separate. Now, that's because, first of all, Pakistan is a fake country, okay? Pakistan used to belong to India. Pakistan and Bangladesh, okay? And then all the Muslim Durkas in India, they were like, we need our own country because, the Hindus are oppressing us, which is literally the farthest thing from the truth. But so then the British were like, all right, sure, you know what? Let's do a two-state solution. So Pakistan was carved out of India, okay? Which, by the way, Pakistan is literally the fakest country in the world. Literally, it has no roots, right? Pakistan didn't exist. And yet Pakistan has the audacity to claim that they don't recognize the state of Israel, even though Israel and the Israeli and Jewish people have literally existed for 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 years, right? I mean, every single ancient civilization in their historical records and documents speaks about the Jews because they've existed, right? You had the kingdom of Israel. You had Judea and Samaria, right? All the ancient lands, the ancient tribes and the ancient kings or whatever, right? In Israel. Meanwhile, Pakistan, literally the fakest two-state solution. And by the way, Pakistan is also a perfect example of how the two-state solution never works, because the British, they tried the two-state solution in India, right? They carved up Pakistan, and they gave that to the Muslims, and that still wasn't enough for them. That still wasn't enough. By the way, initially the two-state solution in India was Pakistan and Bangladesh. So initially in 1947, when they carved out the Durka parts for the Durkas, Bangladesh was originally a part of Pakistan, right? So Bangladesh didn't initially exist. So they carve out, Pakistan, which consisted of modern day Pakistan and Bangladesh. And then the Pakistanis in Bangladesh were having issues with the Pakistanis in Pakistan. So remember when I say, like, if the Durkas aren't fighting other people, they're fighting themselves, okay? So the Durkas in Bangladesh started fighting with the Durkas in Pakistan. So then eventually the Durkas in Bangladesh were like, screw this, we're going to make our own country. And then they created Bangladesh. So Bangladesh is another fake country, right? Bangladesh is basically an offshoot of Pakistan. And both of these countries are pretty much like failed states in a way, right? Like there's just so much terrorism. Minorities there are severely persecuted, right? One thing I don't really speak about a lot are the Indian Christians. Okay, so I don't want to say Pakistani Christians, but I mean, I guess technically their passport says Pakistan because that's where they live. But you ever want to know about how terrible Pakistan is to religious minorities? Go speak with a Pakistani Christian. Yeah. I've actually had a few Pakistani Christians comment in my live stream before, but Pakistani Christians, no one ever speaks about them. They don't have a voice. They do not have a voice. I've spoken about them. I've raised awareness about them, but yeah, Pakistani Christians, one of the most oppressed people in the world. Yeah. You don't want to know what they do to little Christian girls in Pakistan. But, you can use your imagination. You can use your imagination on that. So all that to say, the Baloch tribes in Pakistan, and again, this is a distinction from the Iranian Baloch people, right? We're not referring to the Iranian Baloch people. So the Baloch people, the tribes in Pakistan, they're Sunni Muslim. They're not Shia Muslim or whatever. But so the Baloch tribes, for one reason or another, are being persecuted by the Pakistani government. So, and then also in Afghanistan as well. So, they're going through their own like Durka stuff. However, these Baloch separatists, they're trying to include Iran and the Iranian Baloch people in their fight. And the Iranian Baloch people want literally nothing to do with them. And, the same way that, so let me just show you on the map of Iran, okay? Because we have a province in Iran called Sistan and Balochistan. And remember, all these countries, all these countries with like the word "stan" at the end, all of these were basically once part of the Persian Empire. So, here you go. So this is, let me open this up. So this is the province of Sistan and Balochistan. Okay. So let me pull it up here. So when you look at Iran, remember, Iran is the kitty cat. Okay, it doesn't get much bigger than this. So Iran is the kitty cat. Okay, this is the kitty cat. So Sistan and Balochistan is like the tail. the tail of the kitty cat, okay? So this is the province, okay? This is not a country. This is the province that's called Sistan and Baluchistan, okay? That's the name of the province. Not to be mistaken with like the Baluch tribes here who are currently fighting Pakistan and Afghanistan, okay? Now, remember, my tribe, my people, the Lor Bakhtiaris, we're located over here, okay? We have been on the front lines defending the borders of Iran against the Arab invaders for, thousands of years. The Iranian Kurds, they're up here where the head of the cat is, and the Iranian Kurds, they have been defending Iran's territorial integrity against the Iraqi, Kurdish separatists, who are also basically a Moscow-funded project up here. So the Iranian Kurds have been defending Iran's borders up here, my tribe down here, and then the Baluch people, the Iranian Baluch tribes, they have been here defending this border, right? So this border they have been defending from the separatists, whether it's the Taliban or the separatist Baluch or the Pakistanis or whatever. So that's what the Iranian Baluch people have been doing. In terms of what the Baluch people or like the Pakistani Baluch tribes are doing with Pakistan, I really have no comment on that, because I actually believe that all this area, like, it belongs to India anyway. So I mean, if you want my thoughts on this, like, just, I don't know, Pakistan shouldn't even exist. It's literally one of the fakest countries in the world. I just think all this should just go back to India. Right? Like, this is literally India. This is literally India. And the Pakistani people, they're Indians who were conquered by the Arab Muslims, and the Arab Muslims forced their religion on them. And now the Pakistanis have forgotten their cultural and heritage and their roots, right? So I kind of feel bad for the Pakistani people, because they're literally like Indians who've forgotten their Indian culture, right? That's why they're so, like, that's why they're literally so insane when it comes to like their religion, and that's why they're like the most extreme when it comes to their religion, because they don't have any other identity, right? Like, they can't lean on their Indian heritage because they've renounced it, right? One of the reasons that like we Iranians, we have resisted colonization, right? Because these people, not only were they conquered, they were colonized, right? Like, they were Arabized in a way. But we Iranians, we've resisted that because we've always held on to our culture and our heritage and our pre-Islamic Iranian identity. These ones haven't. So they're like, basically like a Muslim Pakistani is just an Indian who's forgotten their Hindu heritage. That's essentially what it is. Right? I mean, just look at that. And that's essentially history. Okay. So, I think we have a couple more super chats, and then we're going to call it a night. So Plan B says, Javid Shah. Thank you so much, Plan B, Javid Shah. Viperus. When Britain arrived in India, the Hindus, Sikhs, and Muslims brought in by the previous ruler were F4ing each other. Yep, Britain then spent the entirety of the time trying to get them to stop. The two-state solution was a final Hail Mary attempt. Yeah, of course it was. But all I'm saying is that, like, the two-state solution doesn't work, right? Like, there's a lesson to be learned here with Pakistan, right? The lesson is that when the Muslim Durkas are saying, we need to have our own country in order to have peace, don't believe them, because you give them their own country and then they use it as a base of operations to continue their jihad everywhere else. So just ask the Hindus, just ask the Indians, right? There you go. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for tuning in to tonight's evening edition of The Goldie Show. Like I mentioned earlier today on Iran Revolution Live, I will be traveling as of tomorrow. So my schedule is going to be a little bit more erratic. However, I will be live streaming every day. If I can, twice, but if not, at least once a day, just to keep you guys updated with the latest news and analysis and, you know, everything that's going on. But because I will be traveling and on the road, my schedule is kind of going to be up in the air. So make sure that you are subscribed to my YouTube channel and that you have your notifications turned on so that whenever I do go live, you will get the notifications, because it's not going to be at the usual time. It's just going to be whenever I can sneak in half an hour or an hour. So my shows will be much shorter. They will be more concise, but I will be seeing you guys every day. It's just going to be probably like a different background or whatever the case might be. So anyways, guys, thank you everyone so much for tuning in to the Goldie Show. I'm Goldie Ghamari, and as always, now you know. I will see all of you guys very soon.